Hello everyone, welcome to the final part of What If Naruto Was More Like His Father. Anyway, enjoy. Sakura honestly did not know why she was roaming the streets of the village this late at night. She tried to convince herself that it was simply because she was in a good mood after her teammate's wedding, that she simply wanted to watch the stars, but that was not to be. Something was seriously wrong. That feeling was instinct, it was a gut feeling. Perhaps because she was a ninja, that feeling would be honed over time, but today it was acting up. Roaming the empty streets, she didn't know what she was looking for. Perhaps it was because I didn't know you took late-night walks, Sakura. Sakura turned around with a look of total shock on her face upon hearing the familiar voice. There was Sasuke, dressed in his genin clothes sans hitiate, and a backpack on. Narrowing her eyes at him, she replied in a suspicious tone. I could say the same about you. Then a stray thought flew into her head, and the possibility was too big to not be questioned about. Genin don't go on solo missions, and I don't see Kakashi-sensei. Tell me, Sasuke. Where are you going? Stay out of my business, Sakura. Sakura bit back a gasp at his reply. Sasuke hadn't been this cold, this uncaring since the beginning of their days as Team 7. It had gotten easier to hear some emotion in his voice since he and Naruto became, well, she wouldn't call it friendship, but they definitely had some sort of a bond. He had even smiled at the wedding and the reception tonight, and he looked genuinely happy for Naruto. Now that she looked at him, it seemed his walls of loneliness were back. It is my business when my teammate is about to become a missing nin. Sakura snarled at him, shaking off her momentary shock just in time to see Sasuke walking past her. Her hand shot up to grab his bicep with a bruising grip, spinning him around with all her strength. Don't do this, Sasuke. Leaving us now would mean giving up all the bonds that we have worked so hard to forge with you. The bonds that Naruto has worked to forge with you. I know you care for him, Sasuke, even if you don't care for me, so try to understand that this isn't worth it at all. Sasuke looked at her with uncaring eyes. I did start to think that working with you and Kakashi, working with Naruto, that was my way. But then I remembered what my life's goal is. And I would take whatever path is needed to achieve that goal. Sakura grit her teeth. Revenge won't make anyone happy, least of all you. She hated the feeling of desperation that crawled up her spine. Even though she had progressed, she doubted she would be able to hold Sasuke here. He was in a league of his own, along with Naruto. Sasuke's reply was blunt and crushing. Revenge is what I have chosen. Then let us help you achieve it. You don't have to be alone in your pursuit. You, me, Naruto, we can help you find your happiness. By now, tears were spilling from her eyes. Maybe it's just a leftover from my fangirl days, but I don't want the person I love to go out into the cold world and become even colder. I want to be your happiness, Sasuke. I love you so much. Sasuke scowled at her. You are really annoying. Sakura ignored the sting of hurt that came from his statement. She pulled back her arm and threw a punch with all her strength, aiming to knock him out. Of course, Sasuke saw that coming from miles away. Having trained with Naruto, Sakura was a snail to his speed. He easily dodged the punch and used his speed to get behind her. Goodbye, Sakura. That was the last thing she heard before her world went black. XXXXXXX. Naruto honestly had the best sleep in his entire 13-year-old life. Here he was, spooning his wife in their bed, after some intense lovemaking last night. Of course, his rate of recovery was something that very few people could hope to match. Actually, scratch that. No one could match his rate of recovery. He was the one who had the strongest of the bijou inside him, not anybody else. Which was why he found his eyes fluttering open at 5:30 in the morning, arms around Temari, whose back was resting against his chest, back to full energy. She was sleeping peacefully, tired because of the activities of last night. Strangely, Naruto actually felt proud of tiring her out. Now, he just held Temari close to him as he closed his eyes. Nothing could ruin this moment. Ding dong. Of course, he just had to jinx it by thinking about it. He checked his wife, relieved that she was still sleeping. He slowly disentangled himself from her, careful not to wake her. Spreading out his senses, he was surprised to find the familiar, inlace chakra signature of Shikamaru. He soundlessly walked out of the room, without waking his wife. It was only when he reached the front door that he realized that he was buck naked. He hastily formed a half-ram seal, transforming some clothes onto him. Opening the door, he raised an eyebrow when he saw Shikamaru decked out in his Chunin uniform, with a serious expression that was rarely seen on his face. It was obvious that Shikamaru was not on a social visit, so Naruto got straight to the point. What's the problem? Sasuke's gone. If there was even the smallest amount of sleep remaining inside him, it was wiped out by the news that was delivered. Are you saying he left the village? Shikamaru nodded. I checked his house, and there were no signs of struggle. Sakura was also found knocked out on a bench on one of the roads. He left on his own free will. A small amount of hurt grew inside Naruto. Why would you leave, Sasuke? He was careful not to let it show on his face. He forced rational thought into his head. When did he leave? Sometime in the early morning. Tsunade-sama sent me to get you for an emergency retrieval mission. Naruto nodded sharply. I'll meet you in her office in 5 minutes. He shut the door gently and briskly walked to his bedroom. If Sasuke left on his own free will. He shook his head as he entered his room. He wanted answers from the source. He had warned Sasuke on what would happen if he were to leave the village, and he had thought that Sasuke had understood. He had thought that he and Sasuke had an understanding between themselves. Guess he was wrong. He washed his face and was about to dress up, when a shuffling of sheets from behind him caught his attention as he turned and found Temari waking up, giving him eyes that were barely open. What is it, Naruto? Naruto smiled and simultaneously cursed himself for not having a camera, for his wife looked absolutely adorable right now. Buried in sheets, hair in disarray and rubbing her sleep-laden eyes with her hand. Even her voice sounded like that of a child being forced to wake up. Sorry for waking you, Temari, he said while putting on his armbands, but there is an emergency. Bachan has called me in. Now she looked annoyed. Right after our wedding night? He gave her a look of apology. Seems like it. If it makes you feel better, the emergency is big enough to warrant my presence. Holding the sheet to cover her chest, she asked. What is it anyway? He zipped up his Jonin jacket. Uchiha Sasuke has left the village. She wasn't immediately alarmed like him, but she woke up a little bit more. He is your friend, isn't he? He had tied his hitayate around his bangs by now. I thought so. Now, he is a potentially dangerous missing nin. He walked to Temari and sat down by her side. Taking her hand in his, he said, I'm sorry, but I really have to go. Temari sighed. Why can't someone else go? Why were you specifically called? Why not some other Jonin? I don't know, Temari. But I have to obey the Hokage's summons, Naruto explained. Temari frowned in worry. I don't like this, our first morning as husband and wife being interrupted, but go. Naruto smiled. I'll make it up to you. He stole a quick kiss and was gone in a flash. Naruto reappeared outside the office, just as Shikamaru was walking up to the door. He grumbled as he reached Naruto, I wish I could do that jutsu. I wouldn't have to walk anywhere after that. Naruto snorted beside him. I doubt you would have chakra to spare. He knocked the door, and after hearing the permission to enter, they both went inside to see Tsunade, sitting behind the desk, looking as if no one had asked her to get up at 5 in the morning. Naruto cut straight to the chase. What happened? He actually left on his own free will? Tsunade nodded, face grave and eyes blazing. Yes, Sakura was found knocked out on a bench by the main road. She tried to stop Sasuke but he overpowered her. She told the nearest ninja upon waking. We believe he was enticed to buy Orochimaru, or one of his shinobis. How could a guy like Orochimaru ent dash? Shikamaru. Naruto glared at his friend, shutting him up. That is not the priority at the moment. Our first and foremost objective right now is to retrieve Uchiha Sasuke. He turned to Tsunade. I request a team of Chunin and Jonin for this mission. Tsunade's face turned regretful. Sorry Naruto, but I can't grant that request. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Why not? We only have the bare minimum Jonin here to protect the village, all the rest being sent out on missions. You'll only have to do with Genin. Naruto crossed his arms. I presume I stayed because of my wedding? Tsunade nodded. That is correct. Now, I'll give you the only thing I can at the moment. You have the freedom to choose your teammates for this particular mission. As the only Jonin on this team, you are the team leader, Naruto. Naruto nodded and turned to Shikamaru. If we're going to have to do with Genin, we best hurry to round every tough guy among the remaining rookies. Which is sadly, only one. The other one is a pretender, and the last one is a cookie, quite literally. Shikamaru nodded. I think I know what you mean. I'll get started right away. As he turned to leave, Naruto told him one last thing. You have 10 minutes to assemble who you can, Shika. I'm appointing you my vice team leader. As soon as you assemble everyone, you start on your pursuit. I'll catch up. Shikamaru's eyes widened. Wait, what do you dash? That's an order, Shikamaru. In a frustrated growl, Shikamaru asked him. How the hell am I supposed to assemble who I have in mind in just 10 minutes? Wordlessly, 7 of Naruto's shadow clones popped around them. One of them grabbed Shikamaru, and all of them disappeared in a flash as one. Naruto turned to Tsunade with a frown. What is going on? I saw Kakashi last night. Why can't he accompany us? Tsunade shook her head. Kakashi has gone for a mission outside the village. You don't know because he went in the early hours of the morning. He was supposed to leave in the evening, but I only allowed him to stay because you invited him to your wedding. Naruto bit back a curse at that. He took a deep breath and relaxed. Okay. You want Genin to go on an A rank, possibly S rank mission? You'll be sending them to their deaths. What choice do I have, Naruto? Tsunade snapped back in frustration. Naruto glared at her, before bowing his head in thought. Lifting it up, he whispered her one question. How do you want to bring him back? What do you mean? Naruto asked the question. In what condition do you want me to bring him back? Tsunade took a deep breath. I would tell you to get him back alive, if possible. But since this is Orochimaru we are talking about here, I want you to bring him back in any way you can. We cannot risk Orochimaru getting the Sharingan. Her eyes were hard, and Naruto understood the meaning behind her choice of words. Sasuke was to be brought back under any condition, whether it be alive or dead. His teeth gritted. If I am doing this, I want backup. I'm not risking my team like this. Tsunade stood up in a fury, sending her chair skidding back. I told you, I don't have shinobi to spare for this mission. Naruto tilted his head. Maybe you don't, a smirk graced his face, but our new allies do. XXXXXXX. Shikamaru was in a bind. After Naruto had basically told him to scram, and if that was not enough, send him off with his clones as help to gather up whatever team he had in his mind. At first he was annoyed, but when he asked a clone that why couldn't they just flash to Sasuke and retrieve him, the clone had, in all seriousness, informed him that Sasuke didn't have the FTG mark, which meant her ration was out of question. Without wasting time, he had sent one clone each to get Chuji, Kiba, and Niji. He told the rest to dispel themselves. Shikamaru couldn't get Shino, as the guy was on a special mission with his father. They could have really used his chakra-absorbing bug's help. Lee would have been a great addition to the team, however, he was still recovering from the surgery to put his limbs back together. However, Shikamaru wanted to pull his hair out when the clone that was sent to get Choji said that the Akimichi had come down with a case of food poisoning, and as such, won't be able to join the team. They were literally down to a four-man cell now, just like they had started their ninja careers. After putting together a plan of pursuit, they had set off, and even caught up to the Sound Four. Shikamaru's plan had worked, to a point. They had managed to trap one of them with the Shadow Possession Jutsu. Unfortunately, the Sound Four seemed to have planned for that, which shocked Shikamaru to the core. They had greatly underestimated their opponents, and now they were stuck inside an Earth Dome prison, the fat guy named Jirobo holding it from outside and sucking up their chakra through the walls. Kiba yelled in frustration, his claws digging into his hair. Damn it! The longer we stay inside, the more chakra that bastard is taking from us. It sucked, and the unintentional puns were not helping. Niji tried to remain rational and decisive. There must be some sort of weakness that we must find quickly, he muttered quietly, but the frustration was clear in his voice. What weakness? They had been inside for almost 15 minutes, and Shikamaru couldn't risk getting any more of their chakra drained. He took a deep breath. Let's dash. Whatever he was about to say, it was interrupted by a thundering crack on one spot of the dome, as if something had been smashed with brutal force on it. They all tensed up as the prison started rumbling, and eventually, the walls fell around them. Only to reveal. They all relaxed slightly upon seeing Jirobo facing them, a blank look on his face, the forehead of which having the beginnings of a nasty bruise and small rivers of blood. The most significant thing, however, that caused Akamaru to whimper slightly, was the blade that was sticking out from in front the Sound Nin's throat. It was clear to everyone that Jirobo was a dead man standing. The blade slid back, and Jirobo fell on his knees, followed by his upper body, his face kissing the ground rather ungracefully. They all looked up to see eyes that were cold as ice, and sharp as a sword, the anger simmering in them like boiling lava in a volcano. And Naruto? Kiba cried out in shock as he saw Naruto kill the Nin without an ounce of remorse on his face. How did you dash? I didn't give him a chance to prepare, Naruto cut him off. As soon as I sensed him, I used body flicker to get right to him and shoved the blade in his throat. The asshole was too absorbed in his monologue to see me coming. The nonchalant way he spoke about killing Jirobo was extremely unnerving, causing everyone except Shikamaru to question whether Naruto was a closet psychopathic killer. Kiba's face turned into a snarl. We might have had an easier time if you had gotten here earlier. But Naruto was already walking past him. I needed to ensure that we at least had some backup. I'm not going to get you all killed because there was a shortage of shinobi in the village. Now come on. We're losing precious time and distance. He started running, and the others assumed the formation that Naruto guessed was Shikamaru's idea. The said Chunin caught up until they were side by side. Naruto, there's something you need to know. Taking his silence as Naruto listening, he continued, they have Sasuke in a coffin, sort of. We believe him to be still alive, otherwise it would make no sense for them to kill him. There are 3 others we will probably have to face, and the number of opponents might include Sasuke, if the guy really did go willingly, he reported, grumbling the last bit. You don't need to worry about Sasuke. I'll take him on if it comes to that, Naruto assured him. Shikamaru nodded at that. Naruto was probably, the only one in their team who could stop Sasuke. Naruto continued speaking, in a loud voice so others could hear him. The lack of traps suggests that they expected the lot of you to be handled by the fat guy, which means we have a slight advantage, if only slight. Kiba asked him in confusion. What the hell are you talking about? The element of surprise. They won't be expecting us to catch up to them this quickly, so we have a bit of time to come up with a plan. Not much though, so we better hurry, Naruto advised as they leapt through the trees. It was clear to Shikamaru that Naruto was using his sensing abilities to track the remaining 3 Nin, so the planning was left up to him. He was able to come up with a plan, but before he could tell it to his teammates and Naruto, the latter suddenly stopped, holding up a fist as a sign to stop all of them. Each team member froze on the tree on which they had landed, not making a sound so as to listen to what Naruto was listening to. Naruto's danger sense had buzzed suddenly, which is why he had stopped. There had to be a trap, or worse, one of the members had stayed behind just in case the fat guy had failed. They had planned this very impressively. Naruto's keen eyes roamed around the trees, trying to spot anything that might be out of the ordinary. His extra-sensitive nose picked up a very, very faint smell of vinegar, but Naruto could not make any association of it to the mission. His eyes and ears were unable to pick up anything. Niji. The sharp whisper caused the said person to perk up. Look ahead and tell me if we're heading into a trap or not. Niji nodded and silently activated his Byakugan, his eyesight going beyond of what normal eyes were capable of. The veins around his eyes became prominent as his eyes did their work. There seems to be one of them standing on a branch 500 meters ahead of us. And he has 6 arms as well. Naruto smirked faintly. 6 arms, huh? Not something we see every day. He turned back. I am sending a batch of clones to scout. They will travel 200 meters ahead of us, disguised as us. We will follow them, out of sight. Since we don't know the full scope of his abilities, we will engage as soon as he is occupied with the clones. Is that clear? After they organized themselves in a formation, Naruto sent a batch of clones disguised as the team ahead of them, while they discreetly followed behind. Just as Niji said, the clones were attacked by the Sound Nin as soon as they were in front of him. Out of sight, the team watched with disgusted fascination as the Sound Nin spun spider webs from his mouth and trapped the clones. Spinning a different type of web, a more hardened type, he was about to finish off the clones, when Naruto gave the signal to engage. Even though he was surprised, he adapted to the situation very quickly, realizing that the ones he had trapped were only clones. With a brutal maneuver of his webs, that told Naruto that they were dealing with no amateur here, he snapped all the clones out of existence. He managed to dodge Kiba's Fang attack just in time, spinning a web that hung up the Inuzuka duo. Naruto created 6 clones to distract the now-known Kadamaru, who trapped them in another of his webs. Smirking in a feral way, he said, "Let's see which one of you is real." The real Naruto, who had body flickered up high, smirked as he saw Niji advancing silently behind the webweaver. However, before his strike to connect, Kadamaru managed to spot him and drop down, neatly dodging the strike. Quickly weaving a dense web, he trapped Niji into a cocoon. My webs are strong enough to hold down elephants with ease. You are no match for them. He then turned back to the 6 clones, and then spun his hardened webs. He finished off all the 6 clones, and just as he was in his shock, Naruto acted. He dropped silently from above, a kunai ready to bury itself in the nin's head, when Niji appeared out of nowhere, propelling both of them to another branch. He glared at the Hyuga, half in irritation and half in confusion. What the hell? How did you get out of that cocoon? Shikamaru and Kiba joined them, while the man glared at them with hatred, wanting nothing more than to kill them. How did you get out of the webs? Niji coolly replied, the Hyuga clan specialize in chakra-based attacks, and your threads are full of chakra, meaning, he turned to his teammates, and Naruto did not like where this was going. This fight is best suited for me. Go now, and catch up to Sasuke. Shikamaru made a decision faster than Naruto and said, I say we let him have this one. Naruto? Naruto gave Niji a hard glare, mixed with a searching glance. If Niji had not jumped in between, Kadamaru would be lying on the ground, a kunai buried in his head. His hand reached out, and roughly pulled Niji close to his face by his collar. You better be alive after this fight, Niji, he told him in a harsh whisper. He deliberately didn't tell him to catch up, because he knew Niji would be in no condition to catch up to them. Niji gave a jerk of a nod, after which Naruto released him. Leaving Niji behind to fight Kadamaru, Naruto, Shikamaru and Kiba leapt away. No one spoke a word, for the tensions were high because they had to leave a comrade behind. It was one of the hardest decisions Ninja ever faced to go or reach somewhere. You have to leave something, or in this case, someone behind. I'm not going easy on Sasuke when I get my hands on him, Naruto growled. About time. I really want to see that guys is handed to him on a silver platter decorated with diamonds. The growl in his mind almost caused Naruto to miss a step, but he recovered. Waving away Shikamaru's and Kiba's searching looks, he gestured them to increase their pace. Speed up, you two. We have to try our utmost to catch them before the sunset. The trio increased their speed, while Naruto continued his conversation with Kurama. About time you woke up. Tell me you didn't see me and Temari dash. No. Naruto sighed in relief. Good, otherwise it would have been terribly awkward. It's a good thing that I can block myself in your mind, otherwise I would have had nightmares of your mating. Awkwardness aside, I need to focus on my mission. Can't let my team get killed now, can I? I don't understand why you even trusted the Uchiha in the first place. I was not completely trusting, okay? I was reasonably cautious. Your current predicament says different. Naruto had no response for that. Just let me concentrate, okay? I have a feeling that things would only get worse. Kurama snorted. They always get worse before they get better, Naruto. Remember that. The ancient fox went silent after that, leaving Naruto and his team to pursue in silence. Even though they kept going relentlessly, the darkness of the night descended upon them, and soon the only light source that they had was the full moon. We still haven't caught up to them. Kiba growled in frustration. Shikamaru placated him. It's fine, we'll just maintain distance and wait to attack. Kiba gawked at him. Until dawn? Wouldn't it be better to attack right now, while the dark gives us cover? Naruto and Shikamaru both rose an eyebrow. So Kiba can think intelligently sometimes. Shikamaru clarified Kiba's suggestion. A sneak attack, you say? Yeah. We can use decoys while one of us grabs the coffin. Naruto shook his head. As good as that sounds, the dark is only good for an instantaneous advantage. The sneak attack has to be timed perfectly and precisely, otherwise we all end up dead. Not to mention, you both don't have night vision, which only increasing the chances of our dying. Kiba grumbled, but accepted the argument. Naruto and Shikamaru were far better when it came to calculating strategies. Thankfully, he didn't question the fact that Naruto excluded himself out of that statement. Naruto guided them through the dark, applying a tiny bit of Kurama's chakra to his eyes to see through the dark. He kept his senses active for any sign that they had caught up, though he had a feeling that they would have to wait for a long time. Naruto had brought 3 soldier pills with him. He took one, and gave the other 2 to his remaining team. They accepted them with a grateful nod of thanks. The sun rose up in the sky, and Naruto finally got a lock on a chakra signature ahead of them, 2 in fact. It was similar to the last 2 sound ninja, so Naruto concluded that they were on the right track, and almost at the end of the trail. At the speed they were going. I've got a lock on the last ones. XXXXXXX. Sakan. The warning reached the gray-haired boy in time, as he smirked savagely. His hands reached out quickly to catch those of the blonde who tried to bury a kunai in his neck. He grinned at the struggling blonde. You are going to die if that's all you have. There was no change in the expression of his captive, so Sakan had no warning at all. A white twister went right through his captive, who was a shadow clone, judging from the smoke, and into him, sending him flying back towards the tree branch with his teammate stuck on it. The redhead cursed and prepared to move herself and the coffin out of the way, when her eyes widened, and she struggled to look at the cause. She couldn't move. Her shadow had been caught by the Chunin. Tayuya, move! Sakan yelled at her to move, but there was no way for her to do so. Shikamaru released his jutsu at the last minute, causing both of the sound nin to crash into each other. The coffin went flying out of her grasp and straight into the arms of Kiba, who threw it to Naruto. As soon as Naruto caught it, he barked out, "Move it!" Naruto ran off from the clearing, with Shikamaru and Kiba close behind. Naruto kept a faster pace than before, so his remaining team members had some trouble following him. Shikamaru grinned, "We can hightail it back to the village." As if it was that easy. You are forgetting that they are recipients to the power of the curse seal, and as such would have no problem in catching up with us. In fact, I can sense them following, and Sakan is catching up. The Chunin and the Genin looked behind, their eyes widening upon seeing Sakan covered in the black waves of the curse mark. And he was steadily catching up to them. Shikamaru grit his teeth. "Naruto, you are the fastest one among us." So dash. Naruto sharply cut in. "I'm not leaving you behind, Shika." His right hand came up in a half ram. "Brace yourselves." A series of explosions, larger than what Shikamaru and Kiba had ever seen, rose up. Sakan was so into the pursuit, blinded by the rage that these kids had managed to outsmart him, that he failed to notice the explosive tags on the trees. They were put slightly out of sight, so as to not alert anyone immediately. Naruto smirked in satisfaction. The path they were on was the same one that they came from, so Naruto had taken precautions in case of a pursuit like this. He had laid out some of his personal tags very systematically, for the sole purpose of slowing down anyone who might follow them in their return. His smirk dropped, however, when Sakan emerged from the smoke, angrier than ever. "You'll have to try harder than that, you assholes." Unfortunately, Akamaru was surprised by the nin's appearance, and as a consequence, lost his footing momentarily. He fell and landed heavily on a trunk of a tree. Kiba immediately changed course to his familiar. Akamaru. Naruto cursed when he saw that Sakan had wrapped ninja wire around Akamaru, painfully trying to squeeze him to death. And it seemed that Naruto gave too little credit to the brains of the guy, for he did not forget about them. A kunai came racing towards them, an explosive tag wrapped in the ring. Naruto's eyes widened and he retaliated, a shuriken whizzing through the air to knock the kunai off course. The kunai got knocked off its path, arching to bury itself a few meters away from Sakan. Kiba had just reached Akamaru when the tag went off. For a moment, Naruto was blinded by the light of the explosion. The smoke that followed it did not help either. Panic spread through him at the thought that Kiba and Akamaru were caught in the blast, and he hastily spread out his senses, trying to get a lock on their signatures. He released a breath of relief, followed by a frown of confusion when he sensed that all the three were falling down into a. What the fuck? Where did that ravine come from? For all his observational skills, Naruto was truly perplexed on how he had not managed to spot the deep ravine. In a rare moment where emotion clouded his judgment, he rushed forwards, ready to go down to see if they were alive, only to be pulled back by his Chunin teammate. He snarled at Shika. What? Shikamaru only pointed a finger behind them, and Naruto turned to see the redhead, Tayuya, coming for them. Naruto was about to say something when his danger sense buzzed loudly, indicating a particularly large threat heading for them behind his back. Spreading his senses, he found a large source of chakra heading for them, still half a kilometer away, and closing quickly. Tayuya shouted. You assholes! She was about to continue rushing forward, when she suddenly stopped, eyes trained not at Naruto and Shikamaru, but behind them. You, what are you doing here? Seeing a mostly overconfident enemy whisper in such dread-filled voice, Naruto braced himself for whatever was coming for them. He acted just at the right time, grabbing Shikamaru by the vest and flash-stepping to another branch, avoiding the newcomer. He was deathly pale, and looked as if he was under the effects of a sickness. His white hair was short, with two sections wrapped uniquely over his shoulder. He wore a strange, lavender bodysuit, with splits in the front to show his sweats. But it was the purple bow that let Shikamaru know that shit was about to hit the fan. It distantly occurred to Naruto that he should have left Hiraishin marks at intervals during their pursuit, so they could have avoided this sort of chase altogether. He narrowed his eyes at the figure. Who are you? Kimimaro, W.H. How? Your body is no longer dash. The whisper was of shock, but Naruto had no problem hearing her. So this guy was suffering from an illness, and from her choice of words it was most likely terminal. True. That is all I am good for now, making sure Orochimaru-sama's dream come to fruition, he spoke quietly, and Naruto internally frowned at the lack of emotion in his voice. I have my mission, and you have yours. I will make sure the new vessel reaches Orochimaru-sama. Naruto and Shikamaru faced the newcomer, who was standing right in front of them. Naruto was spreading his senses as far as he could, trying to locate even one of his markings, besides Shikamaru, but no such luck. They were too far out. Shika. Don't forget the mission objective, Naruto, Shikamaru cut in calmly, his eyes not leaving his now chosen opponent. Lowering his voice so that only Shikamaru could hear him, he spoke. I better find you alive, you understand? Without waiting for a reply, Naruto was gone in a flash step. Kimimaro followed him not even a second later, ignoring Tayuya's cursing. Now that Naruto was alone, he had no need to restrain his speed. He flew through the tree line, making Kimimaro frown as he struggled to keep up with the blonde, let alone catch up. Even with the coffin in his arms, Naruto was managing to maintain his lead on Kimimaro. Kimimaro realized that this blonde shinobi was deviously fast. He pushed his dying body further with the power of the curse seal, and started to steadily gain on the blonde, if only slowly. Naruto's frustration was building up as he felt that the lead that was between him and his pursuer started to close up. Damn it! Looks like I will have to release all the seals. There was also some sort of strange energy coming from the coffin, and its taste was making him sick. Not to mention, the energy was steadily growing in amount. In his close proximity, it wanted to pulse through him, but was repelled by his own chakra. Naruto was nervous, even if nothing was really happening to him. Then it occurred to him. One of the core, fundamental meaning of holding a high rank in the military forces. An advice that Kakashi had taught him, shortly after he got promoted. As a Chunin, or a Jonin, it was up to you to ensure that any mission you do it with utmost precision. A mission should never remain incomplete if you could prevent it. No mistakes. No loose ends. He emerged from the forest into a large clearing. He set down the coffin, and waited for his tail to catch up. Sure enough, a few moments later, Kimimaro came into sight. He walked calmly towards Naruto, curse marks receding back into the seal, confident that he could take Naruto on without its power. He murmured to himself. How to defeat you? Naruto kept a cold expression on his face. Would you happen to know just exactly what Orochimaru wants Sasuke for? Kimimaro did not reply immediately, instead choosing to size Naruto up. Orochimaru-sama has already obtained the immortality jutsu, something that only he understands and is capable of. Naruto dryly returned. Suyuyur. But I fail to see what that has to do with Sasuke. Immortality doesn't mean that the body will remain, just the soul. His soul is immortal, and to house that immortal soul, every once in a while, a new flesh is needed. Taking a deep breath to calm his shudders, Naruto spoke back. So Sasuke is supposed to be the new vessel, I take it? For someone with a terrible sense of fashion and makeup, he has surprisingly good taste, he smirked in the end. Kimimaro either didn't get the joke, or just didn't have a sense of humor. Deciding to waste no more time, Naruto made his first move. For Kimimaro, it all happened too quickly. 1 second, the shinobi was standing 30 feet across from him, right hand comfortably resting on the coffin. The next, his face made contact with a violent kick that sent him spinning into the air. But he recovered quickly, and just in time to block a punch mid-air. His opponent was good, very good. The blow had only hurt a bit, because of his enhanced durability, but the fact that it even hurt said volumes about his opponent. They landed on the ground, and started exchanging blows. Naruto was reasonably cautious when he engaged in a fight with Kimimaro. The bone-like protrusions coming from Kimimaro's palm were obviously to be avoided. Kimimaro was an aggressive fighter, but of the kind that managed to make each one of his moves like a deadly dance. In a swift motion, his Hiraishin kunai came into his hand, coated with wind chakra, sharpened to the point of being a dagger. Kimimaro apparently saw those as a threat, even with his own set of weapons, as he switched to defense. The Sannin did not allow his annoyance to show on his face at the lack of pattern in the hits that Naruto was throwing at him. Naruto, likewise, was trying to find an advantage. Those protrusions on his hands were very sharp and annoying. One swipe had come close to his throat. Not only that, but Kimimaro could apparently make those protrusions pop up from anywhere on his body. Naruto had yet to take a hit, but was finding it very hard to find an opening to his opponent's style to put a seal on him. Maybe I should spice it up a bit. Two clones suddenly appeared, and Kimimaro found it significantly harder to attack as he was forced to switch to defense. Even though they were shadow clones, they had the skill of the original, and as such, 3 slashes found their way into his guard. He snarled, losing his cool a bit, and extended his bone spikes outwards like a porcupine, catching one of the clones and dispelling it into a cloud of smoke. The remaining clone dodged a spike by doing a one-handed cartwheel on top of his head. His right hand, a spike protruding from his palm, came up to dispel it, but he made one crucial mistake in account of his short-term problem. He didn't keep track of the original. As soon as he dispelled the clone, he caught something heading towards him in his peripheral vision. He desperately leapt to the side, trying to dodge whatever it was. Even though the compressed ball of wind didn't hit Kimimaro directly, it was close enough that it might as well be a point-blank attack. The explosion violently hurled Kimimaro to Naruto's right, the wind from the explosion having made more than a few scratches on him. Just as he was about to switch directly to the second level of his curse mark, something brutally slammed into his back, sending him right back towards the direction that he came from, spinning like a screw in the air. He grit his teeth, because whatever jutsu was used, it grinded on his back. Right where he couldn't grow bones from. Right where his flesh was. And it really hurt. Naruto kept his guard up, even though he'd managed to smash a Rasengan directly into Kimimaro's back. The guy was tough, more in a literal sense than the metaphorical. Naruto had figured that for him to use his bones as a weapon, they would have to be extremely tough. Tougher than one could imagine. So Naruto had created a Rasengan slightly bigger than his usual, and spun it with greater speed than ever before. Which meant greater damage to the target. His clone had slapped a marking on Kimimaro's head, so Naruto was able to use Hiraishin to catch him off guard. Still, it wouldn't exactly be a surprise to him if Kimimaro got up after that attack. Just as he finished his last thought, he saw a figure slowly rising in the dust cloud that was created after the Rasengan burst. He was obviously in pain, and when the dust finally cleared, Naruto bit back a smirk at Kimimaro's expression. He was pissed off. There was not a single trace of the calm confidence Naruto had first seen on his face. All the composure seemed to have left him, and he looked like he wanted nothing more than to turn Naruto into a sponge by creating a number of holes that was a bit too disturbing to think about. "You are powerful, Konoha Shinobi," he said in a controlled voice that was a contrast to the rage-filled expression. His back was hunched a bit, in obvious pain. "Never have I met someone who could push me like this, except for Orochimaru-sama." Foul energy began to take an aura around him. "It seems that I cannot afford to hold back any longer." Naruto watched as Kimimaro's power began to grow. Unlike the little black marks that covered Sasuke upon the seal's activation, his seemed to cover his entire body in almost a second layer, giving his skin an entirely new look. Judging by the way he was standing, it probably healed the injury caused by the Rasengan as well. All in all, he looked hideous. Crack. Confused, both Naruto and Kimimaro turned to look at the coffin. Naruto was about to turn back when nothing happened for a few moments, when the coffin exploded. Boom! Naruto stood in his position, unflinching as he deduced that whatever purpose Sasuke was put into this coffin, that was fulfilled. Sasuke emerged from the coffin, looking different. The colors of his skin and hair were all wrong and inverted. Naruto couldn't see his face as he was facing Sasuke's back. "That's enough, Sasuke. You're coming back with me, right now." His skin and hair reverted to normal colors. Sasuke laughed, and Naruto frowned deeply when he heard how detached it was, how manic it was. Sasuke walked towards into the forest, as if he had never heard Naruto speak. "I'm ordering you to stop. Right now, Sasuke." Sasuke broke into a run, disappearing into the trees, in the direction of the border of the fire country. He completely disregarded Naruto's growled order. Naruto was in a bit of a bind right now. He could not turn, for Kimimaro would jam a bone spike into him at the slightest opening. And if he did not turn, he would lose Sasuke. He could already sense the Uchiha moving at incredible speeds. Speeds that he normally wasn't capable of, last time Naruto checked. So he took a risk. He turned around, under the pretense of dropping his guard. Just like he expected, Kimimaro was at his back in less than a second, a spike ready to stab him through the heart. Konoha Senpu. Two things happened after the cry was heard. Naruto flashed away to a kunai buried in the ground a few meters away, and Kimimaro suffered a vicious kick to the spike in his hand, sending him back. Naruto lifted his head up to see. Yep, the green spandex, bushy eyebrows, it was Lee. The boy turned and grinned. "Naruto-kun. I am here to help." Naruto lifted an eyebrow, hiding his surprise at Lee's arrival. "You are supposed to be recovering, Lee. Why are you here?" "I am here to help. I will stay behind and handle this most unyouthful opponent. You pursue Sasuke-kun." With a brisk nod of thanks, Naruto yanked his kunai out and dashed into the direction Sasuke had gone. The entirety of his team had split up, putting their lives on the line so they could get Sasuke back. This entire mission had been a relay, with every team member running their race. The final lap was up to Naruto, and there was no way he would be losing. He went full throttle, his senses locked onto Sasuke's. XXXXXXX. Sasuke felt his power growing, yet at the same time, it did not feel like his power. But rather, power that was someone else's, merging with his own. It was a feeling like nothing else, and it increased to a point that it got hard to contain or control. Sasuke was conscious enough to know where he was, and decided that he had been trapped long enough. Now was his time to make his move. If they were at where he was supposed to be, good. If not, too bad for them, because he didn't care. He knew where he was supposed to go. He flexed his power, and the result was glorious. It was like being freed from the bonds that held you against your will, yet only made you stronger. The power was still merged with him, and he felt powerful like never before. It was like the power itself was restrained, like him. Now it was free, and it felt amazing. He was high on power, so high that he could only distantly hear someone calling his name. He paid the call no heed, only having one destination in mind. He flexed his power again, this time, commanding it to make him fast. And it obeyed. The power allowed him to go at speeds that only Naruto was capable of going at. Sasuke knew that his resistance seals had been taken off before he was put into the coffin, so he was almost twice as fast as he was before. Coupled with the power of the seal, and he was fast enough to give Naruto a run for his money. See what I did there? Run for his money? He was slowly coming down from the high, so his rationality was coming back. He looked back once, to see if anyone was following him or not. He gave a satisfied smirk upon seeing no one, and continued on his journey with even greater vigor. He finally came to the border that separated the fire country and the rice country. It went by a name that was famous, Valley of the End. The place not only served as the border between the two countries, but as a famous landmark. This place was carved out when Senju Hashirama fought his best friend, Uchiha Madara, to death. By the way, Sasuke doesn't know who that is. This is the author, informing y'all. Sasuke jumped from the head of the Shodai Hokage, down to the water, and onto the head of the spiky-haired statue. This was it. Once he crossed this valley, he would sever all his bonds with Konoha. There was no coming back from this. He froze in his tracks, however, upon hearing that achingly familiar voice, filled with coldness and simmering rage, masked with nonchalance. I hope you know that I won't let you leave like this, Sasuke. Naruto chased after his rogue comrade, frowning at how he was pushing himself. Granted, even he had removed almost all of his resistance for this mission, but for Sasuke to match the speed he was going at with majority of his resistance removed was rather troubling. And he felt a bit guilty for feeling this, but he felt excited. The thought that he might have to use his full power to fight Sasuke gave him a rush that brought a feral grin to his face. For too long he had wanted to have a fight where he could give it his all. He had given it a thought that the coffin that housed Sasuke was part of some sort of process that was supposed to release the full power of the cursed seal. And Naruto knew just how powerful Sasuke was with the seal. He dare say that it would have required every trick in his arsenal to stop Sasuke with the first level of the curse mark, without resorting to Kurama's chakra. But now, he had a feeling that the upcoming fight will be much more challenging. There was quite a reasonable amount of distance between him and Sasuke, due to the latter having an early start. But as he was catching up, he frowned as he sensed the chakra signature stop in front of him. Why would Sasuke stop? Did he know that Naruto was in pursuit? Deciding not to let the opportunity slip, Naruto turned full throttle, rapidly closing the distance between him and Sasuke. His eyes widened when he saw Sasuke come into view, but narrowed when he actually deduced just where the two of them had arrived at. A flash step sent him onto the head of Senju Hashirama, just as Sasuke was once again starting to walk away. Straightening up, he spoke in a normal voice that clearly reached the Uchiha. I hope you know that I won't let you leave like this, Sasuke. The Uchiha froze in his tracks, and Naruto watched as he slowly turned towards him. Alarm bells rang in his mind when he took in his appearance. Sasuke pretty much looked like when the power of the curse mark flowed in his chakra network, but there was a clear difference. Sasuke's left side was covered in black marks, like before, but his left eye had changed, having a black scara and a golden iris, which gave him a rather menacing look. Not to mention the sick smile that he was sporting. It made him look very deranged. For a fleeting moment, Naruto's mind recalled the meeting he had with the last person he saw before leaving the village for pursuit. Flashback. Naruto was briskly walking towards the village gates from where Shikamaru had taken off in pursuit. He was currently in the process of gaining the mindset for the retrieval mission. There was a chance that he might have to kill Sasuke, and Naruto did not like that. If it was possible, he would try his level best to bring him back alive, even if he had to break every single bone in the Uchiha's body. The thought of killing Sasuke did not appeal to him. Just as he arrived at the gate, he took a deep breath and let it out. Be quick in what you have to say, Sakura. He turned around, a frown gracing his features as he looked at his former teammate. Sakura looked terrible. There were noticeable bags underneath her eyes due to lack of sleep, there were tear tracks on her face, and even now, she looked like she was barely holding any more tears at bay. Naruto, her voice broke as she bit her lip, holding back the tears desperately. She then continued in a whisper, please bring Sasuke back. I beg you. Naruto sighed as he looked down, contemplating on what to say. He had a suspicion that Sakura's feelings for the Uchiha were not those of a typical fangirl, but it only added to her misery if Sasuke did not care to return those feelings. He decided to be blunt with her, for if he lied, she would never forgive him. I will bring Sasuke back, Sakura, he told her with a straight face, and it hurt a bit to crush that glimmer of hope that made itself known on her face, but not for you. Sakura's lip trembled. What? I will bring Sasuke back because it is my duty to do so as a shinobi of Konoha. Because I have been ordered to do so. The bluntness of his words caused the tears to finally flow again. She near shouted at him, her words a mixture of rage and disbelief. Why? Why only because it's your duty? Why not? Because he's your friend, yours and mine teammate. Naruto pursed his lips together. I'll be frank with you, Sakura. Hokage-sama has ordered me to get Sasuke back by any means necessary. Not only that, he continued despite the growing horror on Sakura's face, but Hokage-sama has given me very specific instructions to bring Sasuke back, regardless of whether he's dead or alive. Sakura put her hands on her mouth in growing dismay and horror. The mere thought of Sasuke being dead at the hands of Naruto. Please don't tell me you intend to kill him. Naruto pursed his lips. I don't, but it might be difficult to get him back alive. He left on his own free will, not to mention he's probably being guarded by some of Orochimaru's finest. He turned and started walking away. I won't get my hopes up if I were you, Sakura. But I won't stop you from praying for a miracle. Flashback end. By now, Naruto had hardened his resolve, shoving the memory of his meeting with Sakura to the back of his mind. He could not afford to get distracted right now. He didn't know why, but a sense of familiarity shot through him as he considered his and Sasuke's positions. It was almost as if they had been here before. Naruto decided to speak first. Do you have a reason as to why you deserted the village, Sasuke? Sasuke's answer was detached, as if he no longer cared what Naruto said. I'm done fooling around with the leaf, and you, Naruto. Konoha cannot make me strong enough for what I need to do. Naruto had to admit that Sasuke was partially right in the regard. With what happened with Uchiha Itachi, the village wanted to keep a close eye on Sasuke to prevent it from happening again. Konoha's history with powerful Uchiha shinobi was not good at all. Regardless, you are coming back with me to the village, whether you like it or not. My team did not risk their lives for nothing. Sasuke tilted his head, as if he was merely curious. You think you can force me to come back, Naruto? Naruto's eyes narrowed at how Sasuke so casually disregarded the fact that lives had been put on stake to get him back. Sasuke continued, I don't think you fully understand the power that I now possess, Naruto. And it was true. Ever since his seal had been enhanced, Sasuke could tell that he was substantially more powerful than before. He was sure that he could take on Naruto and win, but he knew that he would have to work hard for it. You sure do lack your brother's resolve. That froze the blood flowing in his veins. In a low whisper he snarled, What did you say? Naruto knew what he did was low. Itachi was a sore spot for Sasuke, and hitting it like the way he did was cruel of him. But he needed Sasuke to see reason before he proceeds to fight him. Your brother got strong inside the village, Sasuke. You know that he didn't need any outside help to become as strong as he did. Shut up! Sasuke yelled, but made no move to attack Naruto. You know nothing. But Naruto pressed on. Shodai, Naidame, Sandame, Yandame, Sannin, Hatake Sakumo, Meidodai, Kakashi, Gai, all of these are some of the most powerful shinobi in the world, Sasuke. Do you think that they became powerful by seeking outside help? Make your point already, damn it. My point is, all of these shinobi are a product of Konoha, just like your brother was. They were not weak, just like your brother. You can become strong as well. Konoha has held me back enough. If that village can't give me the strength I need, I'll take it from elsewhere. Sasuke trampled over Naruto's words as if they hadn't even been spoken. He was sick of this. Naruto was starting to get annoyed now. You must have dropped a few brain cells somewhere if you think I'll let Orochimaru have that body of yours. I don't care. Sasuke spread out his arms. If you think that you can make me come back, then I dare you to try. He was practically inviting him to fight him. Naruto could feel his heart beating faster as adrenaline started flowing. This was his chance to really go all out, but he had to be careful. Sasuke knew how he fought, and he would no doubt be avoiding his palm strikes that Naruto frequently used to slap the Hiraishin mark on his opponents, or just any sort of seal. This would be a completely different type of fight, a fight that was based partially on the mission, and partially to see who was the most powerful between them. Naruto had proved himself superior time and time again to Sasuke, but Sasuke seemingly had an edge now. And to be frank, Naruto wanted to drag out the fight simply to pitch himself against the Uchiha, to see where each of them stood. Let the fight begin. Naruto made eye contact with Sasuke under the pretense of glaring at him. Sasuke was about to taunt him further, when he felt himself freezing up. Immediately recalling a similar incident where Orochimaru had done the same thing, the name of the technique sprang to his mind. Kanashibari no Jutsu. Before he could flex his chakra to free himself, Naruto had rocketed forward and had ruthlessly slammed him into the wall behind him, his hand pressed against his throat and holding him up. Naruto gazed intently as he held Sasuke by his throat. That was one of his fastest flash steps, he had to admit. And yet, judging by the lack of surprise, Naruto knew that Sasuke had managed to see him, to a degree. As if he knew that Naruto would do that. Naruto's sense rang a second before Sasuke's knee came up to bury itself in his gut. Or what would have been his gut, had he not jumped back. Sasuke sprang forward to engage Naruto in a furious bout of taijutsu. His Sharingan had activated the moment Naruto had frozen him, and he knew better than to underestimate the blonde. Naruto was faster than Sasuke, but the perceptiveness of his Sharingan allowed Sasuke to either dodge or block hits by the smallest of the margins. Before a rhythm could be established in the fight, Naruto spun a kunai in his right hand and slashed at Sasuke, who mentally cursed and jumped back reflexively, failing to avoid the slash completely, and as a result, a small tear appeared on the front of his shirt. Naruto gave Sasuke no time to think as he went on the offensive. But Sasuke was willing to take risks, it seemed. Naruto was slightly impressed when Sasuke allowed a punch to penetrate his guard, right into his gut. But Sasuke retaliated right after Naruto's attack, throwing a punch and successfully connecting it to Naruto's cheek, sending him backwards. Sasuke coughed up blood due to the force of the punch. The timing of those two attacks was such that each was thrown back by the attack of the other. Naruto threw for shuriken at Sasuke with deadly accuracy, which Sasuke jumped to the side to avoid, since he didn't have any shinobi tools for himself. However, Naruto showed off his own ability to predict his opponent as well. As soon as Sasuke had jumped to the side, Naruto was right up in his guard, his left fist slamming into his ribs. Sasuke coughed up blood once more, knowing that even though they hadn't cracked yet, nasty bruises will be forming in the area. And that thought sent him into a rage, knowing that Naruto was holding back on him. Naruto could have easily broken them, yet he held back, and that was insulting. Sasuke's Sharingan managed to predict Naruto's attack for him to avoid it just in time, but it failed to see that Naruto was setting him up. He winced at force behind the 540 kick his left hand blocked, but was caught off guard when his legs were swiped off beneath him. Naruto took full advantage of the maneuver his shadow clone did. Sasuke's legs were swiped with such force that he was horizontal in the air for a moment, which was all the time Naruto needed. Catching Sasuke by the heel, Naruto spun once and threw the Uchiha down, right into the water. He then jumped down onto Madara's finger, watching the splash. Sasuke surfaced in seconds and pulled himself on top of the water. He carefully took note of the receded curse marks. "Face it, Sasuke, you have a long way to go until you can match me." Sasuke snarled at the taunt. "You have yet to see anything. And stop holding back on me." Naruto narrowed his eyes before jumping down to meet Sasuke halfway. Neither gained any advantage due to their mid-air position, except for pushing each other back. Naruto pulled two of his special kunai out, one held in a reverse grip and the other in a normal. He then dashed towards Sasuke, the other boy doing the same. Due to Sasuke not having any tools of his own, he was at a disadvantage and was hard-pressed to dodge the deadly strikes. His Sharingan was working overtime to predict Naruto's strikes, only partially succeeding. Not only that, but his arms were aching in protest from blocking Naruto's blows, and the force behind them. Naruto might be built for speed, but he sure wasn't lacking in the strength department. Naruto dodged a punch and a roundhouse from Sasuke, going into a handstand and spinning to land a vicious double kick to Sasuke's face. Sasuke recovered quickly, however, spinning low and trying to trip Naruto. Naruto flipped forward to avoid that, and Sasuke used the momentum from his spin to throw forward a high kick to Naruto's head. Naruto saw that coming and was able to counter it with a high kick of his own. But he got slightly disbalanced by performing two counters such as those, back to back. Sasuke took advantage of that and landed a three-punch combo to Naruto's ribs, following it with a knee to the stomach. But Naruto caught his bearings and blocked any further attacks, catching Sasuke's wrist and pulling his arm to the side, leaving an opening. Slapping Sasuke's other arm away, Naruto buried a fist into Sasuke's gut, making him cough blood once more. As payback for the punch combo, Naruto released Sasuke's wrist and struck a punch right into his chin. The force was so great it lifted Sasuke off his feet for a moment. Sasuke tried to push the pain aside, but before he could do so, a foot slammed into him, once again in his gut, throwing him almost a dozen feet back. Sasuke recovered, however, mid-roll and was back on his feet, just in time to dodge the three-pronged kunai that would have pierced his thigh. Before he could perform hand seals for a jutsu, his Sharingan caught another kunai tearing towards him. He hastily jumped back, his hands starting a seal sequence. Katan, Gokakyu no Jutsu. In his haste, however, Sasuke forgot for a split second, only remembering when the fireball made its way towards Naruto, what the function of the kunai was. Sure enough, Naruto flashed to the last kunai he had thrown, and shunpoed to land a flying kick right in Sasuke's face, who had just landed on the ground. The kick sent Sasuke flying further back, sliding on the water. Sasuke grunted in pain as he flipped onto his feet. This fight really wasn't going in his favor. His blows were doing jack to Naruto, while the other's blows were slowly wearing him down. Either Naruto had some armor on inside the uniform, or the Kyuubi was healing the damage from Sasuke's blows, or the guy just had really high pain tolerance. Flashing through seals, Sasuke had electricity crackling in his hands. Chidori! Grinning maniacally, he dashed forward, fully intending to drive the lightning blade through Naruto. Although a part of him knew that Naruto would have a definite counter to him. Sure enough, Naruto dashed forward himself, a Rasengan appearing in his instantly. Both of them clashed and the force expelled was such that water swirled under their feet and raged around them. Both Naruto and Sasuke were trying their damn hardest to push the other back, and push they did. Both of them were thrown back from the backlash of the collision after a few seconds. Sasuke flipped in the air and crashed into the water, submerging for a few seconds. Naruto was lucky to have landed feet first on the water and was sent skidding back a dozen feet. He stood up in a stance, senses spread in case Sasuke tried to attack from under the water. But the Uchiha emerged from the water, heaving deep breaths as he stood up, glaring at Naruto. I really thought the Rasengan would be stronger against that. Guess I'll have to do something about this. He countered my Chidori at full power. Naruto looked at Sasuke with an unreadable look on his face. Then without warning, Naruto flashed through seals. Sasuke instantly copied them, but cursed the fact that he wasn't able to achieve the effect Naruto did. Clearly, this wasn't the full sequence. Two drills of water sprang on his sides and barreled into him. He was able to avoid one, but the other crashed into him and sent him flying onto the bank rather painfully. That he wasn't able to achieve the effect Naruto did. Clearly, this wasn't the full sequence. Sasuke coughed as his chest screamed in protest. That really hurt. I can't copy his jutsu if he's not using the full sequence, and he knows that. Worse, I don't know water or air manipulation. In his pain, Sasuke failed to take notice that a Hiraishin kunai was buried right behind him. Naruto had thrown it right when Sasuke had crashed on the ground, to prevent him from knowing about it. So it stood to reason that Sasuke was shocked and had no counter against the football kick that Naruto smashed into his gut, right after flashing in front of him. The force sent new waves of pain coursing through him, as well as sending him skidding back a few feet. You can't beat me, Sasuke. Not with what you have. Naruto's words caused Sasuke to pause, looking up at Naruto with silent rage. In response to his rage, the curse mark was activated and it spread over Sasuke's entire body, as opposed to one side. Not only that, but for the first time, Naruto's eyes had some alarm in them as he gazed at Sasuke. Not because of the curse mark, but because of Sasuke's eyes. A third tomo appeared in both of the eyes. Sasuke's Sharingan had finally, fully matured. Sasuke snarled in response, not knowing about the change in his eyes. We'll see about that. Speeding through hand seals, a horde of fireballs made their way towards Naruto, who neatly dodged every single one of them. He was barely prepared, however, for Sasuke to be standing right where he was, after he dodged the last fireball. On pure reflex, Naruto bent back a full 90 degrees, avoiding the slash at his throat that Sasuke made holding Naruto's own kunai in hand. He didn't have time to wonder just how fast Sasuke had gotten under the influence of the curse mark, because now he was on defensive. He was reminded of the days when he practiced the snake-style taijutsu with Anko-sensei. Sasuke was relentless, but Naruto didn't need to know the pattern of the attacks to deliver a counter. His left hand came up to grab Sasuke's right wrist, stopping the kunai from burying itself in his head. Naruto's left leg came up in a high kick, but was stopped by Sasuke's other hand. Immediately lifting the wrist he was grabbing, Naruto used his free leg to jump, twisting so that his thighs were around Sasuke's neck. Using all the force he could muster, Naruto flipped back, slamming Sasuke on the ground on his front. He flipped back, but was shocked to see that Sasuke had stood up with him, with seemingly no damage. The Uchiha smirked. You might as well give up if that's all you have. Naruto narrowed his eyes. Looks like I would have to go all out as well. With a half-ram seal, he released all the remaining resistance seals that were activated. It was a level 7, so it should make a difference. Sasuke's face soured when he realized that Naruto was holding back on him still. Looks like you have a death wish after all. With that, he put his new speed to test. In a second, he was in front of Naruto, throwing punches, kicks, jabs, strikes like it was no one's business. He put his everything in his attacks, trying to inflict all the pain he could on Naruto. But soon his anger and sadistic pleasure switched to irritation and shock when Naruto countered all his attacks without a problem. He knew something had changed because he could predict Naruto's movements better than before, and realized with a start that his Sharingan had finally evolved fully. Grinning, he jumped back, deciding to switch to long-distance tactics. Naruto was glad he got rid of the last of his seals, because he would need to be at his peak to counter a fully evolved Sharingan that has been enhanced with an outside source. That short but intense taijutsu bout had pushed him to his maximum, and had told Naruto that this fight had accelerated to a whole new level. He gracefully flipped out of the way of the fireball that Sasuke shot at him, throwing some Hiraishin kunai around the area midair. He had a feeling he was going to need them. He immediately flashed away as the hair on the back of his neck stood up in warning, and it was good that he did, because Sasuke had been waiting for him on the spot where he was going to land. Where the hell was this speed coming from? His hands came up in a tiger seal, and Sasuke found himself bound with chains made up of water. Both of his hands were held away from him, and no matter how hard he pushed, the chains held. He looked up in alarm as Naruto did a snake seal and spat a compressed ball of wind towards him. Sasuke did not want to find out the effects of that jutsu, so he did something unusual for the very first time. He substituted with a piece of rock, without hand seals. He felt the larger than normal drain on his chakra, but it at least got him out of the way. The piece of rock exploded with a bang, tiny chunks of it being blown apart by the explosive wind. With a few quick seals, he sent another fireball Naruto's way, but the blonde simply flashed away, and Sasuke found himself being blown away by an extremely fast wind. The wind was so strong that he was spinning high in the air, and as such was unable to correct his position mid-air. Naruto took clear advantage of that by speeding through seals once more. Suetun, Mizu Tatsumaki no Jutsu. One of his heavy hitters, the jutsu's purpose was to catch Sasuke in its grasp and violently throw him away with the force of a tornado. The spinning vortex of water materialized in a matter of seconds at the spot where Naruto guessed Sasuke would land. Sasuke's eyes widened in alarm when he saw water spinning below him where he would land. He recognized the jutsu as the one Naruto used against Gaara. Just as he landed, he desperately tried to get away, but the vortex had gathered enough speed that the water beneath his feet spun, taking him into the vortex. Sasuke's head spun as his body was violently spun in the vortex, and then, he was thrown out from it, his body slamming into the rocks and falling down. His muscles screamed in protest as he got up, and he drew even more power from the cursed mark, making his recovery faster, but painful nonetheless. Naruto's eye was twitching in irritation upon seeing Sasuke standing up after what happened to him. The rate of recovery that Sasuke was showing was really getting on his nerves. He knew that the curse mark enhanced the subject, but this was ridiculous. He would have to hit Sasuke really hard with to put him down, it seemed. He was about to do some hand seals when an idea popped into his head. It was a crazy one, but if it worked, it could put Sasuke down, even in his state. It was a plan that lacked any efficiency whatsoever, but more than made up for it in terms of power. And he had that in spades. 6 shadow clones popped around him. He put his hand in one of his pouches and took out an exploding tag. Not just any tag, but the self-replicating one. Time to initiate the first part of the plan. Handing the tag to one of the clones, he flashed away to prepare on his part. The clones already knew what to do, and so they made their way down to Sasuke. By the time they had reached, Sasuke had recovered and was mad like no one else. He saw the clones coming and fired off a fireball of epic proportions. One of the clones hung back and formed a bird seal while the others charged straight towards the fireball. Suiton, Suijin Hiki. A wall of water sprung up, in which the fireball collided. The fireball turned the entire wall of water into steam, which spread around the area of the clones and Sasuke, who snarled. "Don't think this steam can hide you, Naruto. My eyes can see your every move." To prove his statement, he effortlessly dodged a downward axe kick from a clone behind him. With a near-instant reflex, he slammed an elbow into the clone's gut, dissipating it. Another came from his side, and he kicked it out of existence. 4 to go. He heard them before he saw them, and he effortlessly caught the shuriken out of air, right in his hands. Flipping up to avoid the attack from another clone, he threw one shuriken at it. The clone poofed out of existence. 3 to go. He threw the shuriken to his right, but only 2 clones emerged, and both of them avoided it. He engaged the 2 of them, and unlike before, he had little difficulty in countering their moves. One clone flipped away, while Sasuke took advantage of that and punched the other clone out of existence. Turning around to deal with the last 2, his eyes widened in alarm when he saw the clone preparing to spit something at him. He cut off the chakra under his feet, going underwater just as the clone spit out air, clearing all the steam from the area. Its chakra supply depleted, the clone vanished out of existence. But Sasuke felt no victory, even as he dodged the attack by going underwater, because right now, he was staring at a smirking clone, and both of them were surrounded by a large number of explosive tags. Sasuke knew in an instant that this was a clone because as reckless Naruto was, even he would not attempt such a move in a close proximity. Only one thought went through his mind. Oh shit. All the tags exploded simultaneously, and Sasuke was tossed high into the air, along with large amounts of water. The force of the underwater explosion was so great that the water, and Sasuke along with it, was tossed high up in the air, high enough to be a head above the heads of Hashirama and Madara. Sasuke plummeted faster than the water, and took a moment to rage and lament at the fact that he had so foolishly thrown away his hip pouch. He angled his body to crash feet first into the water, his entire body, especially stomach and ribs, screaming in protest of the abuse he had been getting from the blonde. Once the water had relatively settled waves, but no explosions, he surfaced and looked around, trying to see where Naruto was. Once he was sure that no one was around, he took a moment to breathe. He knew Naruto wasn't gone, the guy wouldn't leave until he had Sasuke with him. Sasuke took a moment to admire the plan that the blonde had come up in such a short time. He knew that this fight was dragging on longer than he liked. Almost half of his reserves had been emptied, but he still was on the losing side of the fight. That thought caused more power to flow into him. He had this feeling that somehow, a higher level of power he could reach if he drew more power. But before he could do that, 4 Narutos flashed into existence around him in the vicinity of the kunai. Two of them closed in immediately, while the other two provided long-distance support by throwing in an occasional kunai, shuriken or jutsu. Sasuke dealt with the two clones without difficulty and moved towards the other two. But just as he engaged them, something about their movements stood out to him. They were attacking all right, but their movements were complementary of each other. Almost as if his train of thought wasn't allowed to continue as two more clones flashed into existence, and he was hard-pressed to deal with them. He was so into the fight that he failed to take notice of a blonde blur speeding towards their location, running on the bank. XXXXXXX. Naruto had flashed right near the foot of Hashirama, ready to put his plan into action. While not one of his best ones, it would get the job done. Simply put, he was going to hit Sasuke with every ounce of strength he had. As soon as he got the memories of Sasuke getting caught in the water explosion, he put the next part of his plan into action. He had noticed during their fight that both he and Sasuke had moved quite far from the statues, far enough that they were nearer to the other end of the valley than the statues, almost 700 meters away. He sent 4 clones to Sasuke's location to engage him and distract him while he started running. He put everything in his sprint, every ounce of speed that he could muster, and enhancing it with chakra. By the time Sasuke and the clones came into his vision, Naruto was sure that he was running fast enough to give a freight train a run for its money. His target was the Hiraishin kunai right in front of him that was rapidly closing in. Just as Sasuke had dispelled 2 of the clones, all the while being on the receiving end of punches and kicks, he saw Naruto speeding no towards them, but his track was such that he would run right past them. The guy was not even looking towards him. But before he could move in his direction, one of the clones engaged him, greatly increasing his annoyance. The other clone saw the original running and caught his eye, receiving a nod in return. He knew just what he needed to do. He jumped right into the fight along with the remaining clone and was immediately on defensive, but his job wasn't to attack. He only had a 5-second window to execute the plan. Just as Sasuke dispatched the other clone, the remaining one tilted his body to the side to avoid the kick that would have dispelled him as well. His right palm came to rest on Sasuke's back, and then he pushed. Naruto grinned when he saw Sasuke appear just 5 meters before him. The clone had done his job perfectly, teleporting Sasuke into the path of the speeding projectile that was himself. His right fist came up, glowing with the color of his chakra, further enhancing the force behind the would-be blow, and the plan was well worth executing, because the look of complete shock on Sasuke's face was absolutely worth it. Sasuke was confused just what Naruto was doing running on the banks while his clones fought him. Knowing that this was part of some plan, he knew he had to get rid of the clones, or just get out of the way and dispel them from afar. But his confusion only grew when the clone behind him did not attack, but just place a palm on his back. It all became clear the instant he appeared right in Naruto's path, and saw the glowing fist. Knowing he couldn't get out of the way in time, he had barely crossed his arms in defense when he felt the fist crashing into his already abused arms. Sasuke definitely felt something crack and tear in both of his forearms. The speed with which Naruto had been running only added to the force behind the punch, and Sasuke was thrown back as if he had taken a punch from Orochimaru back in the forest, only the force had been multiplied some 4 or 5 times. He smashed through a rock as if it were cardboard, crashed into the ground and kept skidding, and smashed through another rock, before coming to rest. All of his pain receptors were screaming, and he could only wonder why he wasn't. His back felt like it had been torn into 2, repaired, and then torn again. Yet, his resolve did not break. That son of a bitch. That hurts. Where the hell did he bring that punch from? Why can't I beat him? He is always a step ahead of me, and either I fail to realize it, or I realize it and still can't do anything about it. I am in no condition to move, I only have 1/3 of my chakra reserves left, my body feels like it has literally been torn apart. He even hasn't used the Kyuubi's power yet, but I am almost torn apart even after using the curse mark's power. The image of his brother drifted in his mind, his words echoing like a bell. Still as weak as always, foolish little brother. Sasuke's wrists were cracked, if not outright broken. But in spite of the enormous amount of pain he was in, his hands closed into fists. The power of the curse mark flowed into him once more, this time unrestricted. Sasuke drew every drop of power he could from the mark. He would be the winner of this fight, not Naruto. The power, as if agreeing with him, mixed with him, merged with him. Then he stood up, marveling his form that pulsed with undeniable power. Naruto was breathing heavily as he walked to where Sasuke had stopped after crashing. Sprinting for a long distance such as he did took a lot of breath out of him, but the result was worth it. The power behind the punch, combined with his speed, was probably enough to shatter a small part of the Hokage's heads on the mountain into pieces. He doubted Sasuke's hands were intact. He stopped before the prone form of his former comrade, looking at it with a small amount of pity. His fatigue had finally started to make itself known. "It's over, Sasuke. I win," he whispered. Then the unthinkable happened. It should have been impossible. No one should have been able to get up after a punch such as that. The curse marks on Sasuke's body glowed orange, and then they shifted so that they covered every inch of skin on Sasuke's body like armor. Naruto heard the gruesome cracks, no doubt the repair work on the bones. The skin stopped glowing, and Naruto shifted in a loose stance upon seeing it take on a gray color. Sasuke's hair grew, taking on a blue color and shifting into a form of a mane, much like Madara's. Then, Sasuke got up. Clearly, this was the change in the curse mark that had taken place inside the coffin. Sasuke stared at Naruto, an expressionless face, but the smugness was radiating off of him. Naruto couldn't quite hide the shock on his face, and his expression changed into a morbid curiosity as he heard the unmistakable voices of muscles being torn apart, or in this case, rearranged. There was no expression of pain on Sasuke's face, but Naruto couldn't quite hide his horror when a giant, clawed, webbed, gray hand tore out of the left side of Sasuke's back. Another one followed, this time on the right side of Sasuke's back, and both the arms spread, almost taking on the shape of wings. Only one thought went through Naruto's head. What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? Kurama and he had spoken on the same time, both of their tones echoing with disgust and disbelief. It was utterly disgusting and fascinating at the same time. Sasuke spoke lower than a whisper, but Naruto managed to hear him. "My turn." Then, he moved. Naruto had flashed as soon as Sasuke spoke, to the farthest kunai he could. He watched, and moved just at the right moment to avoid Sasuke, who crashed where he was but a moment ago. He didn't have a moment of reprieve when Sasuke flew towards him, and punched him with such force that he was thrown back into the wall of the valley, cracks spreading out from the point of impact. Naruto groaned as he dropped to his knees. The force behind the punch was enough to drop a tree. The only reason he wasn't puking was because he hadn't ate anything, and that his body was significantly hardened from the use of resistance seals. He had barely gotten up when Sasuke was right back in his face. This time, he flashed away on pure reflex. His expression hardened, and he flashed away yet again when Sasuke converged on him. Sasuke chuckled, "Looks like the tables have turned, Naruto." He then dug his foot where he was, and flexed his newly acquired arms/wings. Naruto chose not to flash away this time, dodging the attack with a simple flip. He then locked into an arm struggle with Sasuke, with both their arms locked. Sasuke was surprised for a moment, but then smirked. Naruto's arms shook as he struggled to overpower Sasuke. The latter pushed him back without any appearance of struggle. Finally, Naruto allowed his rage to show. "You want to do it this way? Fine then." Sasuke maintained his smirk when he saw Naruto clearly struggling. He could maintain this power for 10 minutes at most, but it should be enough to beat Naruto into the ground. He forced Naruto back, but widened when he saw something that he had never seen on the blonde's face. Rage. Sure, he had seen Naruto angry before, but nothing like this. Currently, Naruto looked like he was the type of guy who handled all of his problem by blowing them into oblivion. Then he felt it. Naruto's entire frame was then covered into an unfamiliar, orange glow. It was clearly chakra, and it took Sasuke only a second to place the familiar feeling of malice. Bijou chakra. Naruto squeezed his hands, and it was Sasuke's turn to grimace in pain and struggle. His hands were being squeezed and bent backwards painfully, and something sharp was digging into the back of his hands, through his newly hardened skin. Nails. Sasuke was desperately trying to free his hands from Naruto's painful grip and completely failing when he was pulled forward. For the first time, he glanced at Naruto's eyes and gave a horrified expression. Naruto's irises were completely red, with a black split in the middle. They were the eyes of the Kyuubi, Sasuke realized. "You're a real pest." The growl frightened him more than he wanted to admit. Naruto's voice had gone a full octave deeper, and when he spoke, it was hard to say who was speaking, Naruto or the Kyuubi. Naruto broke the grip on Sasuke's right hand and punched Sasuke right on the side of his face. With Kyuubi's chakra coursing through him, his strength had been enhanced so much that Sasuke was sent crashing into the wall of the valley so hard that cracks spread from the point where he impacted, roughly in the shape of spider's web. Sasuke shook his head. That strike had hurt more than he expected, but not enough to cause anything more than some minor pain. A roar caused him to look up, and his jaw dropped when a full pillar of orange chakra shot up from Naruto into the sky, and cracks appeared on the ground due to the sheer density and the force of the chakra. When the pillar subsided, Sasuke observed the changes in Naruto. His hair had gotten wilder, with more spikes standing up. His eyes were red, and the whisker marks, which Naruto didn't have since the Chunin exams, were back, only much more thicker. Sasuke was willing to bet that Naruto's canines had sharpened as well, even if his lips were closed. He was surrounded by an orange cloak of chakra, which clung to him like a second skin. His aura and posture screamed of power, and for the first time in the fight, Sasuke felt a little scared. "If the fool is so hell-bent on trying to show off his power," Kurama said. "It's only fair that we show him some of ours," Naruto agreed. Naruto allowed a full tail's worth of chakra to flow in him. He was willing to bet that Kurama's one tail contained more power than what Sasuke had right now. Sasuke cautiously took a step forward. "Naruto?" He never saw the blow coming. The beating that followed for the next 5 minutes was the worst that Sasuke had ever gone through. Naruto was relentless, not giving even one opening, and rained blow after blow on Sasuke. Sasuke tried to use his form speed to get some breath, but Naruto quickly proved to be much, much faster than him in his own form. Either he was caught by pure speed, or he just happened to be unlucky enough to be near one of Naruto's Hiraishin kunai. Naruto was literally a blur, and even Sasuke's Sharingan was unable to catch or predict his movements, because they were very fast, and very erratic, not to mention very painful. By the end of 5 minutes, Sasuke knew that he had no chance of winning this fight through power. Naruto had proved that he was way ahead in that regard. Skill was out as well, as Naruto's arsenal was bigger than his own. He had less than a fourth of his chakra left, after which his current form would be gone. His only option left was deceit. And he knew just what to do. Naruto was enjoying pummeling Sasuke with his strength. It served the bastard right. He did not hold back at all, because he wanted Sasuke to know that he was the one with more power among them. He could hold this form for over 40 minutes, which meant 40 minutes of pure beating. But he was willing to give the guy a last chance to surrender. He walked down on the wall towards him slowly, like a predator stalking a prey. "Ready to give up yet?" Sasuke, who was bleeding from small cuts, had various bruises forming all over his body, snarled and sprang upward with the intention of snapping the blonde's throat for good. But Naruto simply flashed to a kunai 50 meters behind Sasuke, in a crouched position, sideways on the wall of the alley. "I can't go on for much longer. This form won't last beyond 2 more minutes, and even that's pushing it. I've used up nearly all my chakra, damn it." He turned around and spoke slowly, in a drawl, hiding the pain from his voice. "Let's end this, Naruto. One finishing move. The one who remains standing wins." Naruto also stood up, spinning a Hiraishin kunai in his left index finger as if he was bored with all the fighting. He rose an eyebrow at the suggestion. "Indeed, let's end this useless fight, so I can finally drag you back to Konoha." The growl was as menacing as ever, but Sasuke didn't let that deter him. He smirked. "That's yet to be decided." He charged up a Chidori in his left hand, but this time the chakra changed from pure crackling white to a sort of gray with a white center. Naruto narrowed his eyes, and a Rasengan came into existence on his right hand. The Rasengan was bigger than his palm, and the most curious thing that Naruto found about it was its color. It was a purple, which was rather puzzling since neither his nor Kurama's chakra was purple in color. Perhaps a mix of them? They stared at each other, and both took off at the same time. Naruto ran sideways along the wall of the valley, while Sasuke used his wings/arms to fly equally sideways. They were 5 meters from each other when Naruto threw the kunai in his left hand towards Sasuke's head, who just tilted it aside to let it pass by harmlessly. Time slowed down when they were right in front of each other. Sasuke thrust his arm forward, making it seem like it was going to collide with the Rasengan, which was still on level with Naruto's shoulder. He changed the course of his arm so that the Chidori would not collide with the Rasengan, but drive itself straight through Naruto's heart. This was his moment of victory. His arm inched forward towards Naruto's chest, but Naruto still kept eye contact with Sasuke, who was grinning sadistically. The Chidori would strike Naruto's chest before the Rasengan could meet it. The Rasengan would still collide on his arm, but that was way better than having it on the chest. Victory is mine. Just as the Chidori was about to make contact, it happened. Naruto vanished. Sasuke's eyes showed great shock as his Chidori passed through nothing but air. He was only able to express it for a moment, when an enormous force slammed in the middle of his back, driving him so that he sunk into the rock wall. He gave a grunt of pain, and then he realized what had happened. Shit! He teleported to the kunai he threw? As if sensing Sasuke's thoughts, Naruto said, "That was my flying thunder god, level 2. He then fully slammed the Rasengan on top of him. The impact and the power behind the Rasengan was so great that an entire part of the valley's wall collapsed. The wall cracked and shattered into smaller rocks that came down like rain. Naruto had snatched the victory from Sasuke by a landslide, quite literally. Naruto had flashed away as soon as the rocks had started raining. He watched with no small amount of pride that it was due to his power the wall had shattered. Don't forget it was my power that you wielded, brat. Naruto grinned ferally. You know what they say, a weapon is only as good as its wielder. The destruction was truly magnificent, if he had to admit. He flash-stepped to one of the bigger rocks, his senses finding Sasuke buried between some of them. He stood with a straight back and watched as some of the rocks shifted, revealing Sasuke who was struggling to stand up. His back was surprisingly devoid of any heavy bruises. It seemed that the second skin offered some level of enhanced durability held out against the Rasengan. It still had bruises all over though, with a small marking on the middle of his back. He closed the reservoir inside, allowing his own chakra to flow through him once again. His knees were wobbling as he heaved deep breaths. It hurt so bad that Sasuke was barely holding out from crying. The force of that Rasengan was such that if not for his second form, Sasuke was sure that the Rasengan would have likely killed him by destroying his spine. It was a painful realization that Naruto had, after all, not held back against him. He lifted his head, and he was so exhausted that he could not even bring himself to be jealous, angry, irritated, or frustrated at the sight. Naruto was standing on a rock calmly, without any semblance of exhaustion on him. Wind was gently blowing around them, blowing Naruto's bangs to the side. Just for a second, Sasuke thought that Naruto looked exactly like his father. He vanished again. He appeared right in front of Sasuke, slamming a palm right into his stomach. Sasuke's knees buckled, and he finally lost consciousness as he fell against Naruto. Naruto held Sasuke and gently laid him down on the ground. That paralysis seal should keep you from running until we reach Konoha. He was about to sit down to rest for 5 minutes himself when the distinct sound of footsteps reached his ears. It was faint, but he glanced upwards and was rather surprised to see Kabuto's face peering down at the valley, coming to rest on him. Looked like he was here to collect Sasuke from him. Ha! Naruto grinned and held up a Hiraishin kunai towards Kabuto, to see if that would scare him or not. Even his right hand came up as if he were about to form a Rasengan. The resident, politely sarcastic look was promptly wiped from his face, replaced by a small amount of fear. He turned and walked away, no doubt to report to his master. Naruto put the kunai back in his pouch and sat down in front of Sasuke's for some rest. The fight had been exhilarating, easily the best and the most enjoyable fight he had ever been in, and he did not regret the hurt he bestowed upon Sasuke at all. In fact, in his opinion, the Uchiha could use some humbling, that the world did not revolve for him. There was a sound of thunder, and Naruto looked up with a smile as rain gently poured over both of them. It worked like magic, for Naruto's muscles seemingly relaxed on their own. It wiped the dirt from his body and face, and the best thing was, that it felt like a reward to him. All the hard work he put in this mission, and this was the reward. The thought of his team flashed into his mind and a frown of concern crossed over his features. He could only hope that reinforcements from Suna had reached his team in time. So lost he was in his thoughts that his head jerked up from its resting position on his hands when he heard the voice. Naruto? He smiled tiredly. You sure took your time, Kakashi. For once, Kakashi did not have a lame excuse. In fact, he did not have any excuse at all. His luck had been the worst for the last 2 days. The first thing he heard after returning from an A-rank mission was, Sasuke has left the village to join Orochimaru, Naruto and Shik Dash. The second he heard Naruto he had ran out. He had always known that it would always come down to Naruto and Sasuke. He was puzzled as to how it happened. For the past few days, Sasuke had seemed content with his place in the village, and had developed bonds with his peers. So what the hell happened? He had chased relentlessly after his 2 students in a very unfair time frame, hoping to stop it before it was too late. Flashback. Kakashi. Kakashi looked down at Pakken, who ran at his side. It's up ahead, I can smell the small amounts of blood. I also smell snakes, but not Orochimaru. The other guy. A small relief went through him at the mention that blood was only spilled in small amounts. Then his eye narrowed. Kabuto, he murmured. Was Kabuto sent in case Naruto defeated Sasuke? He is going away. Kakashi doubled his pace and reached at the valley, looking down at a sight that nearly dropped him in relief and filled him up with dread. Sasuke was laid on the ground on his back, eyes closed. He looked peaceful, too peaceful actually. Then there was Naruto, who was sitting with his head resting on his hands. He dropped down and tentatively approached them, and only then he saw the seal on Sasuke's stomach. He relaxed a bit, knowing Naruto had put a seal on Sasuke to prevent him from escaping. He winced though, upon seeing the amount of abuse Sasuke's body had taken, no doubt by the hands of Naruto. Naruto? Flashback end. He gestured to Sasuke. Is he? Naruto nodded, unconscious, and will stay that way for quite a while. Kakashi gave a nod of understanding and looked around. The damage was enough to be visible. An entire section of the wall of the valley had been shattered to pieces. I really thought you would have less trouble bringing him in, considering your knowledge of seals and Hiraishin. Naruto gave a snort and nodded. I would have, but this was more than a mission for me. Both of us wanted to see where we stood in regard to each other. Kakashi raised an eyebrow, but remained silent. It was no secret to him that despite of being his superior, in terms of rank and power, Naruto shared a rivalry with Sasuke. It was mostly on Sasuke's part, but if there was one person in Konoha that Naruto wouldn't refuse to fight with all his power, it was Sasuke. The bond they shared was strange and rather ununderstandable. And what have you found out? A small smile appeared on Naruto's face, as if being reminded of a joke. He still has a few ways to go. Kakashi could not help the snort that escaped him. I can see that. Looking around, he found one thing out of place. Where's Kabuto? Oh, he did come here to collect Sasuke, but I scared him away. The statement sounded completely absurd. The right-hand man of Orochimaru, scared away? Apparently, he still remembers the Rasengan I drove into his gut. That sounded believable. Anyone would keep their distance to avoid a repetition of that. Naruto frowned. What happened to my team? Kakashi shook his head. I don't know. I really just came to stop the both of you from killing each other. Naruto nodded in understanding and stood up in a smooth movement. I hope you don't mind carrying him, Kakashi. I am a bit tired, and in need of attention from my wife. Kakashi did not mind at all. In fact, he was ready to carry Naruto as well, should the blonde drop in exhaustion. But Naruto looked like he had barely been in a scuffle, unlike Sasuke. The guy could imitate a dead guy right now. Naruto flashed to all of his markers, collecting his kunai. He really should figure out a better way to do this, rather than flashing to everywhere. Unnecessary waste of chakra. Maybe he could summon them? A summoning contract for the Flying Thunder God? He filed that thought away for later. He came back to Kakashi and turned to him. Let's go. Oh, make one. Did you see that? He totally got that from me. In your face, Uchiha. Fugaku was really not in a good mood. Here he was, in heaven, with his wife, enjoying a quiet lunch, when he was informed that his son has deserted the village. Quickly, his wife and he rushed to their television, which allowed them to watch their sons every now and then. Surprisingly, he found the Yondaime Hokage and his wife at their house as well. Kushina, the ever-chippy Uzumaki, replied, both of our children are on the TV. Fugaku and Makoto were horrified that Sasuke was going to Orochimaru of all people to gain power to kill Itachi. Makoto looked ready to cry, and Fugaku hated the fact that he could do nothing but watch. But both of them were surprised when they learned that Kushina and Minato's son was in charge of the mission to bring Sasuke back. Ever since they had learned that Naruto had made Jonin, Kushina had been extremely proud and happy. So much that she took every opportunity to gloat about it. Minato did no such thing, but his eyes shined with pride every time the talk was about his son. Makoto, his dear, sweet wife, took Kushina's gloating in stride, long used to her best friend's habits. But Fugaku never liked the fact that Naruto was the genius that was being compared to the likes of his father and his older son. Sasuke was always a bit too slow in his eyes. Maybe that came from having a genius for his older son. They all watched the fight between their sons with mixed expressions. Minato was unbearably smug of the fact that his son was capable of tricking and outspeeding the Sharingan. The fight came to the current point, where Naruto had executed the brilliant plan of punching Sasuke with the force of a freight train. Minato was shaking his head at his son's straightforwardness and lack of efficiency in the plan, but couldn't deny the results. If not for Orochimaru's seal, Sasuke would not have been able to get up again. But Kushina was all too happy to gloat. Even Fugaku couldn't deny that such a blunt plan could only have been thought up by someone who was related to Kushina. Then came the horror. Both the Uchiha, well, only Makoto, but Fugaku was close, cried when they saw what their son had become. Even Kushina had tears in her eyes. Both the parents watched how Naruto was basically tossed around effortlessly by Sasuke for a while. Then Minato and Kushina cheered up on seeing the power of the Kyuubi coursing through their son. It was a literal smackdown after Naruto harnessed the Bijuu chakra. Sasuke stood no chance at all. But the shock came when Minato, who was generally a very cool person, stood up and cheered. Yes. The reason for that was Naruto had used the Hiraishin in the same manner Minato had to take down the rogue Uchiha all those years ago. The irony of that statement was not lost on any of them. Kushina smiled wistfully when the TV switched off. I guess he really is more of your son than mine. Minato, the ever-loving husband, wrapped an arm around his wife and kissed her cheek. He is our son, Kushina. Not just mine, or yours, but ours. Kushina smiled and nodded. And he really took my words to heart about finding a woman like me. Oh, make two. Madara cursed as he handed over the money to Hashirama, who smiled goofily. As if there was any doubt. Madara scoffed at his rival's statement. You were just lucky, Hashirama. I am beyond ashamed that my descendant needed foul power such as that to try and beat yours. Tobirama spoke up from behind them, approval lacing his tone. Now that is what I call a good use of my jutsu. Madara glared at the white-haired Senju, who had turned his head and was innocently whistling. While you may think Tobirama was proud of Naruto's maneuver, Madara clearly knew that Tobirama only found joy in the fact that Naruto brought the wall down on an Uchiha. Kabuto's face showed an annoyed facial expression as he jumped through the trees. It had been almost an hour since he sent Kimimaro to retrieve Sasuke in case the Sound 4 had been delayed by Konoha's own retrieval team, but no one had returned. He had been forced to organize a deathmatch on a short notice to select a new body for Orochimaru-sama. While he may have been adamant that he will only have Sasuke's body, he could not deny that the current body had been failing rapidly, despite his insistence that he could hold on. Kabuto had Orochimaru-sama change bodies with the lone survivor of the deathmatch, and on his orders, immediately departed from the base to get Sasuke-kun. And like most of his missions, he had gone alone. While Kabuto had confidence that he could hold his own against someone of Kakashi's caliber, he was not a spy for nothing. His observational and analytical skills were unparalleled, and so he put it to good use. Konoha had recently survived an invasion, which was what Orochimaru-sama had based the retrieval mission on. With Konoha rebuilding itself, it would no doubt be sending most of its elite force out of the village on missions to maintain its image. The point being, Konoha had no team at the moment that could stand up to Sound 4 and retrieve Sasuke, which meant that the mission should have gone off without a problem. However, Kabuto suspected that Tsunade had sent a retrieval team, and a competent one at that, if it could hold out Sound 4 for this long. The Jonin and Shunin would be out on missions, and Genin had no chance of going on an A-rank mission such as this one, or did they? Knowing how paranoid the village was about the Sharingan being under their control, they would send out any shinobi that they had. The only genin that Kabuto could think of were Shikamaru, Shoji, Niji, Shino, Kiba, and Naruto. Of all of them, only Niji and Naruto stood a decent chance against one of the Sound 4. But Naruto had large reserves of chakra, large enough to spam shadow clones without worry, and he had a good idea of what stealth was about, if the way he saved Hayate from Baki was any indication. And he was ridiculously good, as he had been able to dispatch him off without any trouble. That had been a painful day. Kabuto dropped to the ground and continued running. He was about half a mile away from the border that separated Fire and Rice Country. He only hoped that Kimimaro had succeeded. That guy was on a whole another level from the Sound 4, so there should be no reason to worry. But Kabuto couldn't shake the bad feeling from his stomach. He arrived at the Valley of the End, and his eyes widened. The valley had honestly seen better days. Chunks of rocks had been torn from the walls, and Kabuto's attention was instantly drawn to a specific part of the valley. A whole section of the wall had collapsed, from the looks of it. There was a small mountain of rocks on the ground, but that wasn't all. Kabuto spotted his target for the first time, and was utterly shocked. In fact, now that he thought, he miscalculated just how formidable Naruto was. It looked like Sasuke had tried to beat Naruto and lost, badly. The poor guy looked like he had been through the grinder, and then some. Naruto, on his side, gave Kabuto quite a shock. He hadn't known that Naruto had been promoted, to Jonin no less. Though it made sense, since it was Naruto who took him out of the fight with a single move, and it was probably Naruto who felled the wall with his Rasengan. There hadn't been such a devastating fight in this valley since the legendary statues were alive. Then Naruto looked at him, and he gave a sneer. Best case scenario, he was worn out after his fight with Sasuke, and he could probably take him. To his astonishment, Naruto grinned and lifted his three-pronged kunai and lifted his palm, in a very familiar gesture. It took Kabuto a mere second to make his decision and turn back. Clearly, Naruto hadn't been that exhausted that he wouldn't be able to fight. He still remembered the devastating amount of pain he had inflicted on Kabuto, and as much loyal he was to Orochimaru-sama, he wasn't about to take a beating like that again. Naruto would probably finish him off this time. Orochimaru-sama won't be happy. XXXXXXX. After almost half an hour of walking, Naruto signaled Kakashi to take to the trees. The sooner they got to the village, the better. As they jumped through the trees, Naruto made for shadow clones, who disappeared into Shunshin as soon as they came into existence. To check on my team, he spoke before Kakashi could ask the question. He was worried about them. He did not want a casualty on his first mission. They sped through the trees without any intention to stop. The mission had been successful, but Naruto wanted to know the costs he had paid, if any. The gates came into their view just as the sun took its leave from the sky. Naruto sighed in relief as he dropped from the tree to the ground, Kakashi following his lead. They walked the rest of the way, both of them organizing their thoughts into order. Naruto's eyes became a little more alert when he saw who was standing at the gates. The Hokage, the Jonin commander, Nara Shikako, a team of medic Nin, his vice-captain for the mission, Gaara, Kankuro, and his wife. Why was his wife standing at the gates, looking a little dirty in her changed battle attire? And why did Shikamaru look as if he was seconds away from breaking down? Naruto could spot the expressions of relief on Tsunade's and Shikako-sama's faces when they saw Kakashi holding Sasuke's body in a fireman's carry. Surprisingly though, it was Shikamaru who walked towards him first before the medic Nin took their cue and rushed towards them as well. Kakashi handed Sasuke over to them before motioning one of them towards Naruto. Naruto simply waved a hand to the Nin, signaling that he's fine, before turning his attention to Shikamaru. One look at his face told Naruto everything, and his gut felt 10 times heavier. Steeling himself, he asked in a quiet voice, "Casualties?" No, Shikamaru's voice had a slight waver in it. But we came damn close. Naruto struggled to not hold the guilt on himself. He tried to tell himself that the circumstances were against them, that their team was not ready for a mission such as this, but the fact that he was the team leader, and that his team was so gravely injured under his command somehow amplified the guilt inside. Naruto bit his lip and said, "I know I sound like an asshole, but don't take it too hard on yourself, Shika. You know as well as I do that this team of Genin was not ready for a mission such as this. This mission should only have had Jonin or Chunin, but not Genin. We were underprepared for this mission." Shikamaru gave him a look of disbelief. A hint of anger appeared on his face. Neji and Kiba almost lost their lives, and you're saying that don't take it hard on myself? Naruto mentally shook his head. Shikamaru was not thinking straight right now. His emotions were clouding his ability of judgment. We'll talk later about this, Shika. Tell me, did the backup make it on time? Shikamaru clearly didn't agree with the change in topic, but answered him. They made it just in time. Gaara managed to save Lee just before he was killed, while Kankuro saved Kiba from Sakan, and your wife dropped the forest on Tayuya to save me. Naruto's head immediately snapped to Temari, an incredulous look on his face. Just why had Tsunade allowed Temari in the field so soon? Now that he thought about it, his night with her should have left her limping for quite a while, the good kind of sore. Abandoning the train of thought and resolving to talk to her later, he reflected upon Shikamaru's words. A surge of pride went through his chest when he realized that his beautiful, sweet wife had killed one of the Sound Four by dropping an entire forest with her Winjutsu. If he had known that Sasuke would leave, he would have waited one night to do the deed. She would have been a valuable member of the retrieval team. Naruto smirked and just wrapped an arm around Shikamaru's shoulders. Don't underestimate my wife, Shika. It might prove painful to you. On the other hand, he gave a pointed look to the Nara. Let this be a lesson to you. Strategy is useless if someone could simply overpower you. You gotta train more, man. Instead of gaping at him for the abrupt nonchalance, Shikamaru simply raised an eyebrow. Shouldn't you be worried about your wife going into the field? I'm not going to hold her back out of overprotectiveness, Shika. Temari is more than capable of taking care of herself. He ignored Shikamaru's troublesome and reached Tsunade, giving her a lazy salute. Mission accomplished, Hokage-sama. Tsunade nodded in approval. I knew you could do it, Naruto. I will see your report on my desk tomorrow morning, I suppose? Along with a personal account? Naruto gave her a frown. Personal account? Tsunade glanced at Shikako, who continued, we need to know the level of resistance Sasuke showed, in order for us to decide how severe his punishment should be. Naruto scoffed as he replied, you don't need a personal account for that. Just take a look at how much I had to beat him up to bring him back. I literally caved his back in with a Rasengan. He did not wait to see their reactions to that, moving towards his wife. Temari had her arms crossed across her chest, watching him with a careful look. A small amount of concern flashed across her chest when she noted the slight tears in his sleeves and track pants. The bruises on his face had already healed, thanks to Kurama. "Are you all right?" Naruto gave a tired smile to her. He might act aloof, but even he suffered the mental repercussions of beating his former teammate almost to death. "I am, but I need some rest." Temari smiled back, "That you do." She gently grabbed his hand, "Let's go home." Naruto smiled and flashed both of them to their living room, where Temari immediately went to their room to put her fan away. Naruto removed his footwear and sank into the couch with a groan. The journey back hadn't been exactly tiring, but Naruto thought that this particular A rank took more out of him than he expected. His mind flashed back to what Shikamaru had told him: half of their team was in a critical condition. If only he had a proper team. Naruto got up from the couch. Best not to continue that line of thought. He would probably have nightmares tonight anyway, so best not to add on to that. He went to his bedroom and entered just as Temari was putting on a large, loose t-shirt, giving him a flash of her creamy back, but Naruto had too much on his mind for those things right now. Instead, he just started removing his own uniform. "I heard you dropped the forest on the red-headed kunoichi." Temari scoffed as she untied the ponytails in her hair. "That bitch had it coming. You should tell that Nara to train a bit more. Strategy won't help him every time." Naruto nodded as he took off his t-shirt. Maybe this experience will give him some motivation to train rather than lazing around all day. Temari hummed absently as she walked up to Naruto, wrapping her arms around his front, kissing his neck lightly from behind him. Naruto sighed as he leaned into his wife's hold. For the first time, Temari heard Naruto speaking in such a defeated voice, and it shocked her. "We almost lost Niji and Kiba today, Temari. If only I had been Dash." Temari swiftly turned him around and gently held his face. "You will not blame yourself for this mission, Naruto," she sternly told him. "You did the best you could with what you had. The others knew the risks of the mission before they agreed to it, so you don't need to drown yourself in guilt." She gave him a soft kiss. "Tsunade-sama is the best medic there is, so you don't need to worry." Naruto allowed Temari to drag him to their bed, and once the lights were turned off, he was held by his wife as she whispered sweet things in his ears, all the while gently rocking him. Naruto would have verbally appreciated her singing voice if he wasn't gradually pulled into the dark abyss of sleep. XXXXXXX. Morning came, and surprisingly, it was Temari who opened her eyes first. She blinked the sleep out of them and looked at the bedside clock. It was 10 in the morning. Was all she could think at the moment. She turned back to see Naruto soundly asleep, his hands still wrapped around her waist. Naruto had slept soundly the whole night, for which Temari gave herself a mental pat on the back. She didn't know what had happened between Naruto and his former teammate, but it had been something that had mentally exhausted the blonde. Nightmares were sure to come, but physical comfort is very much effective against those. She tried to gently pry herself away from Naruto's hold, intending to make some breakfast for the both of them. But even in sleep, Naruto was unwilling to let her go, as his hands tightened in response to her movement. A few more attempts later, which were all unsuccessful, she gave it up altogether, resigning herself to her husband's hold. "Glad that you realized." The voice, that was rough from the night of sleep, spoke in an amused whisper. Temari jerked around, seeing Naruto's sleepy, but clearly amused expression. "You were awake the whole time?" "You weren't exactly keeping it subtle." Temari was about to reply to his taunt, when she felt something poking her on her thigh. She didn't have to look down to confirm it for what it was, instead she just gave him a raised eyebrow. To his credit, Naruto didn't get embarrassed at all. This was his own wife, damn it. "What?" Temari chose not to deign that not-so-innocent question with an answer and got out of his hold, out of the bed. She stretched, working out the kinks from her back and giving Naruto a great view of her derriere. He pushed the covers back, standing up as well. He had had over 12 hours of sleep, after all. He had work to do. Temari was going to her closet to get some clothes out for her shower, when a pair of hands encircled her waist from behind, drawing her into a warm body. She moaned as pleasure assaulted her from 3 different places, all at once. Naruto nibbled on her earlobe, while his hands drifted upwards under her t-shirt to fondle her breasts, and his growing arousal pressed into her posterior. "Say, do you have anything important to do today?" "Not exactly," she breathed out as Naruto began humping into her. "Good." That was all he said before he slowly pulled the t-shirt over her head, leaving her completely naked except for her panties. He turned her around and lifted her up, her legs automatically wrapping around his waist for support. Without another word, he initiated a tongue battle, which Temari returned enthusiastically as they made their way to the shower. After spending almost a whole hour inside, they finally exited and got dressed. Naruto was wearing his uniform as he was supposed to report to Tsunade and most probably, the council. The written report of the mission would have to wait, as he had forgotten to form a clone to do it. Temari finished getting dressed and together, they both exited the house, preferring to walk instead of just flashing there. Naruto looked at his wife curiously. "So how were you sent as backup for my team?" Temari frowned on how to reply to that. "Tsunade-sama was already aware of whom to call for backup, thanks to you. But I wasn't, so I was rather surprised when she called me to her office and asked whether I could be part of the backup being sent to your team. I was perplexed, however, as to why she specifically asked me. But that confusion cleared up when she told me that my brothers were making their way from Suna, so I immediately agreed," she explained, to which Naruto gave a sound of realization. "Sorry if it sounds offensive, but I thought you would soar from our activities to participate in the mission," Naruto remarked as he rubbed his neck with a sheepish smile. Temari smirked at him. "I was, but there is someone in this village whom you call a grandma, after all. And she just happens to be the greatest medic in the world." Naruto nodded seriously, completely missing the snarking tone in her voice. That made complete sense. Although, he would have to find a way to make messages travel faster. Birds are just too slow. They both reached the Hokage Tower, and saw that many shinobi were hustling around as if in a hurry. Naruto gave them no mind as he proceeded directly to Tsunade's office. He wondered just what sort of information Tsunade needed from him to decide the punishment of the Uchiha. Then again, if he had written his report on time, his own account wouldn't have been needed at all. Oh well, he had 3 days to hand in his report. No pressure. They reached the door to the Hokage's office. Naruto knocked on it, opening it only when Tsunade told him to come in. Once inside, he merely raised an eyebrow at Shikaku-sama's presence. He rarely saw the Jonin commander, and not to mention, he had the impression that Nara males were not supposed to up before noon. Shikaku-sama should be sleeping right now, considering all he has to do is paperwork. He walked forward until he was standing beside Shikamaru, who looked like he wanted to be anywhere but here. The elders were in the room as well, including Danzo. That put Naruto on edge, because Naruto always felt that there was something that the mummified elder was hiding. Temari closed the door behind and made to stand beside Naruto. Tsunade nodded and said, "All right, now that everyone has been assembled, Shikamaru," making the Chunin look at her, "I would like to hear your account of the mission." Shikamaru's verbal report was not entirely unprofessional, except there were too many mentions of troublesome. Then again, it didn't surprise Tsunade. Although, no one failed to notice the tightness in his voice when he delivered his report. He, like Naruto, had experienced for the first time how it felt to almost lose their comrades, even though they didn't. Naruto hastily pushed back the images his mind was conjuring of Neji and Kiba on their deathbeds. He didn't need that now. Temari delivered her report, though hers was extremely short, consisting of merely pursuit and execution. Finally, Tsunade asked him to deliver his part of the report. Naruto described in detail on how he was pursued by Orochimaru's supposedly most powerful subordinate, and the bloodline he possessed. How his fight with him was cut short due to Lee's arrival, and how he pursued Sasuke after that. The description of their fight was similar. Naruto described how Sasuke did not hold back against him at all, and fully tried to kill him. The elders in the room tensed as he told them how he had been forced to resort to using Kyuubi's chakra by Sasuke's second-level transformation of the cursed seal. After he finished his report, the room descended into silence as everyone tried to organize their thoughts into order. Finally, it was Danzo who broke the silence. You said you had to resort to using Kyuubi's chakra to stop him, correct? Naruto lifted his head up slightly at the question. Yes. The power of Sasuke's transformation was far too much for me to handle, and Hiraishin was proving inadequate, which is why I used it. Naruto had to admit, the elder's face could have very well been made from stone. There was nothing readable on his face. By saying that you were forced to resort to Bijou chakra, you mean to say that you can access the demon's chakra at will? And control it? Naruto was getting uneasy at how much focus was being shifted onto him. Wasn't this meeting supposed to be about deciding Sasuke's punishment? In the end, he gave a single nod. And how much did you use? A full tael's worth of chakra. Suffice to say, it was all he could do to keep his eyes from rolling when Hamura and Kotaro tensed up, contempt welling up in their eyes. Danzo, however, merely nodded and went silent after that. That unnerved Naruto far more than he was willing to show. I fail to see why you would want to know that, Elder Danzo, considering that we're only here to decide Uchiha Sasuke's punishment after listening to my husband's report of his resistance, Temari remarked, raising an eyebrow at him. Koharu stepped forward at the statement, a disapproving frown on her face at Temari's daring tone. We find that rather hard to believe, that you can access and control the beast's chakra at will. You see, our previous Jinchuriki was also thought to be fully keeping the Kyuubi's chakra in check. However, the Jinchuriki went on a rampage during the Third War, and it was unable to discern friend and foe. It was because Naruto had his hands folded behind his back that they couldn't see his clenched fists. He took a deep breath and replied, I assure you, that I was fully in control of myself. Trust me, if it were the other way around, Sasuke wouldn't be alive right now. And secondly, he fixed the elders with a stern gaze that bordered on a glare. I would appreciate it if you didn't talk about my mother like she was just some sort of beast that went wild. The elders bristled at his tone. Hamura retorted, Uzumaki Kushina dash. Was a hero who served this village without expecting, or getting, any form of thanks, Naruto interrupted, his face carefully blank. My mother was a hero, and while I would love to talk about how she has been completely forgotten for her services, that's not why we are here. He then turned towards Tsunade, completely ignoring the sputtering elder. The Hokage's eyes were twinkling with amusement, but became serious as Naruto addressed her. I have completed my report, Hokage-sama. Tsunade nodded, good. Based on your report, as much as I would like to say and believe it, Uchiha Sasuke was acting on his own will, instead of being influenced by the cursed seal. His intentions were to desert Konohagakure no Sato and join Orochimaru. Not only that, but he also attacked a superior officer in an attempt to kill him. At that, she looked towards Shikaku-sama. What punishment do you propose, Shikaku? The Jonin commander stroked his beard. To be frank, Hokage-sama, becoming a missing nin automatically gets you a death sentence. However, he continued when he saw the elders ready to protest and more importantly, Naruto closing his eyes in apparent resignation, since Uchiha Sasuke is the last bearer of the Sharingan that we have under our control, it would be unwise to completely finish it off. Therefore, I suggest that he be kept in heavy imprisonment for 1 year, and upon his release, be suspended from shinobi duties for 6 months, during which he be subjected to psychological sessions to address past trauma and adjust his mental conditioning, because Kami knows the kid needs it. Lastly, upon his resuming of duties, he be put on probation for another 6 months. Silence descended in the office as the elders, excluding Danzo, looked at Shikaku in disbelief. Tsunade seemed to be thinking it through, and Naruto gazed at Shikamaru in his peripheral gaze, finding the Nara actually paying attention with sharp eyes. Naruto didn't fault his friend if he wanted execution, because he didn't understand Sasuke like Naruto did. After all, pursuing Sasuke did almost cause the death of half of their team. Temari was standing stone-faced, eyes straight. She really didn't know what to think about the entire situation. Deserting your village automatically gets you a death sentence, no matter how important you are. But apparently, the Sharingan was apparently too important to the village to just be finished off. It was perplexing her that just how far Konoha was willing to go for the Uchiha. Naruto was inwardly relieved. He had feared that Sasuke would be executed, as per protocol, and he was ready to defend his friend, but it seemed that there was no need to. In his opinion, 2 years of retirement was way better than being killed. It was somewhat a burden off his shoulders. Tsunade finally came to a decision. While that seems reasonable, I think it's better if we bring it down to 6 months of imprisonment, instead of 1 year. Koharu stepped forward. Hokage-sama, in my opinion even that seems a bit harsh. Perhaps just a 6-month imprisonment, followed by 1 month of probation? Surprisingly, Temari was the one who stepped forward against that suggestion. Koharu-sama, the foremost punishment, when it concerns a missing nin, is death. And that goes for every missing nin. The punishment is already a lot more lenient by not executing him right away, instead choosing to preserve a bloodline. Do you mean to say that you would speak against execution for any other missing nin from Konoha, or is it just Uchiha Sasuke? The silence from the elder told everyone that Temari had been spot on. As it stands, by giving him this punishment, Hokage-sama is already in the danger of being accused of showing favoritism inside the shinobi forces. The only reason that accusation could be swept aside is that the missing nin in question is an Uchiha, and as such, the last, potentially loyal Sharingan under the village's control. Naruto continued, inwardly pumping a fist at his wife's argument. She sure knew how to put people down. Naruto is correct, Tsunade agreed, much to the displeasure of the elders. Inwardly smirking, she continued, that is the only reason Uchiha Sasuke has not been punished by death. However, by not executing him does not mean the alternate punishment will be light. My punishment stands 6 months of prison, followed by 6 months of suspension and psychological recovery and conditioning, followed by 6 months of probation. Does anyone have a problem with that? The elders, excluding Danzo, raised their hands. Tsunade rolled her eyes and her next question was practically dripping with sarcasm. Does anyone else have a problem? When no one raised their hands, Tsunade nodded and turned to the Jonin commander. Sasuke will have finished recovering by the end of next week. Make sure he is immediately transferred to prison after his discharge. Shikaku bowed. As you wish, Tsunade-sama. If we have no further business, this meeting is adjourned. As the elders and Shikaku-sama left, Naruto stayed behind to discuss something private with Tsunade. When everyone had left, he stepped forward. Hokage-sama, can you tell me when I would be able to visit him? Tsunade's expression turned grim as she looked at him. Sorry Naruto, but Sasuke is under intensive care right now. You may not know it, but almost every bone in his body was at least cracked, if not broken. I'd say he was extremely lucky that he was in the second level of his transformation, otherwise I don't think that his spine would have survived the Rasengan that you crashed into his back. Naruto tried not to show the guilt and horror he was feeling at that. He had given only a moment's thought to the level of damage Sasuke might suffer from the Rasengan. He had guessed that the transformation would protect Sasuke from any severe damage. He had only been meaning to disable him, not cripple him entirely. If it were anyone else, the Rasengan would have grinded the backbone into dust. But otherwise, you should be able to speak with him after 5 days. Naruto released a breath of relief. He then bowed to Tsunade and left the office with Temari. Just as they exited the office, they tensed upon hearing the voice behind them. Might I have a moment of your time, Uzumaki-dano? Naruto turned around to see Danzo, the elder, staring at him with his expressionless eyes. His eyes drifted downwards to the cane and he inwardly frowned. Who's he trying to fool with the old retired shinobi act? Only people with walking problems need canes. He's not putting any kind of pressure on it like a man who needs it would. Outwardly, he nodded and turned to Temari. Go, I'll be right behind you. Temari was about to protest when Naruto gave her a pointed look. She reluctantly nodded and walked away. He turned and faced the elder, the slightest hints of annoyance seeping into his voice. I have several other things to do, Danzo-san, so please make this quick. Danzo might not admit this to anyone, but the Jinchuriki was impressive in his capacity to act as the clan head. He motioned him, "Please follow me to my office. I will try to make this as quick as I can." The both brisk walked, while Naruto revised everything he had on this man. His father had left a journal, in which a particular section had been dedicated entirely to this man. He had written down that Danzo was fiercely loyal to Konoha, and an extremist to boot. His father had also said that Danzo was after the seat of Hokage, and would do anything to ensure he would become the Hokage. Given his position as the village's Jinchuriki, Naruto guessed that at some point or the other, Danzo might have tried to control him. As they arrived in his office, a thought occurred to Naruto that this could potentially turn out to be a very dangerous situation. "I'm sure you're curious as to why I brought you here." "So he wants to do it that way?" "Sorry Danzo, but I plan to end this as quickly as possible." "Outwardly," he said, "a small part of me is, but let's not waste each other's time. You know who I am, and I know who you are." Not even a twitch of his facial muscles, but his voice held a thin curiosity. "You do?" Naruto tilted his head. "I know what you also are." A raise of an eyebrow this time. "Do tell." Naruto refrained from smirking at his next statement. "You are the root that supports the tree that is Konoha." Now that brought out some reaction, which Naruto relished. His lone eye widened, and his entire posture tensed up. There was no way that Danzo missed the meaning behind his words. The man took a moment to calm himself and then spoke. "I see, and who else knows of this?" Naruto shrugged and deliberately gave the man a vague answer. "I wouldn't know. Though I assume there won't be many, since you have gone to some, well, let's say extreme lengths, to keep it a secret." Danzo was inwardly frowning at how much Naruto knew about his operations. "Keep what a secret, Uzumaki Dano?" Naruto gave a thin smile. "If you deny its existence, why would you be so interested in it?" Danzo sat back in his chair. That was masterfully played by Uzumaki, he mentally applauded. It would be tricky to get out of this corner. Naruto continued, "But let's not play around. We both know that root exists, and you are its leader, despite Sandame's order to shut it down. It's your own private army which no one else can control, and if anyone else acquires this information, they might see it as a rebellion on your front to overthrow the Hokage." Danzo couldn't hide the small flinch. That was a rather bold statement, and he couldn't deny it anymore. He returned, "My operations are always in best interests for the village." "Then I fail to see how you helped when Orochimaru attacked." "I didn't see any root operatives during the invasion." Danzo had no reply for that. He had never suspected that someone would ask him this particular question. "I had a dash." "Perhaps you were hoping that the Sandane would be killed by his former student and would pave the way for you to be Hokage?" Danzo narrowed his eyes, even though he was inwardly shocked at the unintentional bullseye that Naruto had hit. "You go too far, Uzumaki Dano. Hiruzen was my old friend, and I would never wish for his death." Naruto exhaled as he leaned back. "If you say so. I think we are done here, Danzo-san. I must get back to my wife now." "Ah yes, your wife." That paused Naruto in his seat. He could deal with Danzo's sights upon him, but why would he be interested in Temari? "What about her?" "I was wondering if you could tell me when you were planning to honor the treaty by conceiving an heir." There was a drastic drop in the temperature of the room. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the elder, and Danzo was pretty sure that the Uzumaki was intentionally channeling the cold, dangerous parts of his psyche that he inherited from his father. For the first time in the conversation, there was an air of hostility around the young jonin. "You can wonder all you want, but I don't see how that is any of your business, Danzo-san. But I will tell you this." Naruto got up from his seat and laid his hands on the table, leaning forward. "Don't poke your nose where it doesn't belong. You cross my path, and I will make you regret it." Before Danzo could make a retort, Naruto turned and walked out of the office. Danzo had to give it to him. The Jinchuriki may not be very subtle when it came to politics, but he had enough subtlety to pass by. And he sure knew how to make a statement. Danzo knew that at the rate he was progressing, Uzumaki would easily become the most powerful ninja of the village in 2 to 3 years. Politically, he had the backing of 2 powerful clans, and Danzo could only hope that Uzumaki didn't do anything that would hinder his plans of becoming Hokage. Well played, Uzumaki. But know this, that between you and I, it will be me who comes out on top. XXXXXXX. Naruto caught up with Temari in a flash, and she didn't so much as flinch at his sudden presence. What happened? Naruto shook his head, nothing. Danzo just wanted to play some mind games with me. I have to admit, Naruto. That guy gives me a bad feeling in the stomach. Naruto gently took the bags of vegetables from Temari. Danzo has plans to be Hokage, Temari, and that is all he cares about. He won't pay even the slightest attention to those he tramples on in his quest. We are nothing but pawns for him to play around with, that is what he believes. Temari frowned as they walked towards their home. Pawns, you say? Reminds me of a certain elder back in Suna. I hated that guy. Naruto smiled slightly, but then became serious again. He also wanted to know when we were planning on having babies. Temari choked on air, her face reddening rapidly, though from embarrassment or anger, it was hard to tell. He what? Naruto shrugged, that was when I told him to fuck off, in no uncertain terms. I have no doubt that he will be keeping a closer eye on us from now on. I will have to upgrade our home's defenses a bit. Maybe make a minefield. Just don't go overboard, Temari remarked, amused. Say, how about we get some ice cream? Naruto brightened up a little. I could use some ice cream. XXXXXXX. Looks like the Kyuubi Jinchuriki has grown quite powerful than our last encounter. Don't you think so, Itachi-san? HN. Itachi gave the typical Uchiha response to his partner's question. He was silently glad, however, that Naruto had stopped Sasuke from reaching Orochimaru. Nothing good would come out of that. Now he didn't need to worry about Sasuke on top of keeping the village safe from outside. XXXXXXX. Naruto arrived on top of his father's head. He felt him before he saw him, looking over the village. An unusual spot for you to choose to meet up. Jiraiya smiled in melancholy. I guess you could say that. Both of them stood side by side as they overlooked the village. It was a while before Jiraiya told him why he called him here. Akatsuki has been moving. Oh? Jiraiya nodded seriously. Right now, they don't seem to be going after any of the bijou. My sources have told me that they are building their capital right now, leaving the Jinchuriki as they are, for now. Naruto raised an eyebrow at him. Why are you telling me this? Jiraiya looked at him with grim eyes, looking his age for the first time in a long time. Naruto, you are my apprentice, regardless of your summoning contract. You are Konoha's greatest asset, but most importantly, you are my godson. And I refuse to just sit by when someone is after my godson's life. Naruto folded his hands. Jiraiya had never been this serious with him, but Akatsuki was serious business. A group of S-rank missing nin was no joke at all, and their goal could twist the very way the world operated. What do you want me to do then? For the first time in their conversation, Jiraiya smirked. I want you to come on a training trip with me. Naruto took a deep breath as he turned back to the village. A training trip with Jiraiya. There was so much he could learn from the man. But first, how long would the trip last? 3 years. Naruto pursed his lips. Why 3 years? You see, I have received reports that Orochimaru has switched bodies once again, which is strange considering how much he wanted Sasuke's body. Now that he has, however, he won't be changing bodies for another 3 years. Here's the kick though, at the same time Orochimaru has decided to go underground, so have the Akatsuki as well. This gives you a nice, 3-year window to get stronger, strong enough to not worry about them. I plan to make you capable of defending yourself and your loved ones in that time. When I'm finished with you, you will be one of the most dangerous men in all the nations. Naruto exhaled and sat down on a spike beside his godfather, face contemplative. While that sounds terribly tempting, I would have to leave my wife behind. And you know well enough just how big of a target she is due to her relationship with me. Many things could happen to her, and I can't take that risk. Then it's a good thing that she won't be in the village, right? Naruto's head snapped to Jiraiya, confusion written on his face. What do you mean? Jiraiya smirked as he took out a scroll and handed it over to Naruto. He opened it to see a map of the elemental nations, but a particular path had been highlighted. The path began from Konoha and ended in the mountains between hot water country and the land of ice. It marked a particular spot over there, in a red circle. What's this? Jiraiya puffed out his chest. Well, I knew that you would not agree to leave your wife behind, so I came up with an alternative. The spot marked in the red circle is the home of a retired warrior named Ankita Ryu, who specializes in the usage of war fans. Your wife probably knows of her. She can use them unlike anyone I've seen, and trust me, shinobi of Suna don't even compare to her. What I mean to say is, while we are on our training trip, your wife could embark on her own training trip as well. Naruto glared at his godfather and was about to snap at him when he paused. That actually sounded like a considerable idea. Jiraiya's hopes went up on seeing Naruto actually thinking about it. What do you think? And just what makes you think that she will accept my wife as her pupil? Jiraiya crossed his arms and smirked in a triumphant way. Well, recommendation from a Sannin, for one. Her relationship with you, secondly. Connections are important, after all. And last, her latent talent. She is already very much skilled in the usage of her war fan, and if she trains with Ryu, she will probably become the most dangerous wind user in the entire nations at a very young age. You do want her to be strong enough to protect herself without you, right? Naruto nodded, rolling the idea in his head. After a few minutes of thinking, Naruto replied, I'll have to talk to my wife about this. And I'll agree to the training trip only if we escort her to this lady first. Jiraiya thrust out his hand. Deal. Naruto nodded after shaking hands. Deal. And also, when are we leaving? Because I need to talk to Bachan and Sasuke before we do. Jiraiya looked conflicted, but gave a resigned sigh at that. I wanted for us to leave as soon as possible, but if you need to talk to Sasuke, we can only leave after 5 days. What is it that you want to talk to him about anyways? Naruto brightened up, completely ignoring Jiraiya's question. Great. Though I wonder what Temari will have to say about us separating so early after our marriage, for 3 years at that. He stood up, rolling his shoulders. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go. He was gone in a flash after that, causing Jiraiya to scoff. Show off. XXXXXXX. 5 days later, Sasuke was finally moved from intensive care. While he just laid on the hospital bed, only one thought flashed across his mind. How Naruto beat him. He had been thinking pretty deeply about how he had been beaten by his former comrade. Why was he beaten? Was his reason for fighting not strong enough? Was his hatred not strong enough? He slowly clenched his fists as he fought down his frustration. Now that he was in Konoha, it would be a long time before he would be allowed to go after Itachi, and that too if he was lucky. I'm so weak. I wouldn't say that. Sasuke's eyes snapped open at the voice. What are you doing here? Naruto sat down in the seat. I came to talk to you, Sasuke. Sasuke closed his eyes as emotions threatened to overwhelm him. We have nothing to talk about, Naruto. You can leave. But Naruto was persistent, like always. Yes, we do. As much as I would like to say that your actions were the result of the influence of the cursed seal, they weren't. You were genuinely trying to kill me. Why? Sasuke opened his eyes to gaze at the ceiling. You won't get an answer out of me, Naruto. Naruto sighed despondently. Sasuke, I know that you have the answer to my question. What have I ever done to you for you to try and kill me like that? Because you were in my way. Orochimaru was offering a way to gain power so I can kill my brother, which Konoha would never give me. That is my goal in life, and no one will stop me from achieving it, not even you. You mean to say that revenge is more important to you than your comrades, than your bonds with them? Yes. There was no hesitancy in his answer, and that stunned Naruto. Sasuke didn't give a crap about anything else other than killing Itachi. Naruto was hoping that Sasuke would at least consider before giving the answer, but he was wrong. To Sasuke, nothing mattered except for killing Itachi. Not anymore. Changing topics to avoid the grief he was feeling, he said, your punishment has been decided. For just a moment, Sasuke was afraid. He was afraid that he would die before he killed Itachi. But he pushed it down and asked instead, what is it? 6 months of imprisonment, followed by 6 months of suspension from the forces, and 6 months of duty with probation. Well, Sasuke couldn't say that he was entirely surprised. Given how desperate the village was when it came to the Sharingan, they won't be willing to lose the only pair of eyes they had left. Still, better than being killed. But this could turn in his favor if he played this right. I see. Don't make revenge your defining purpose in life, Sasuke. It will bring you nothing but emptiness, Sasuke. Mark my words, killing your brother would bring you not satisfaction, but anguish. Naruto got up from his seat and moved to the door, but before he could touch it, Sasuke's voice stopped him. Naruto. Naruto turned his head sideways, signaling that he was listening. When will you come next time to visit? Naruto smiled wistfully as he turned around. I won't be coming back for 3 years, Sasuke. I'm leaving for a training trip with Jiraiya. Sasuke narrowed his eyes. Then know this, Konoha will not hold me for the entirety of my punishment. I will escape, and I will gain power to kill my brother. 3 years later, when we meet again, and we shall meet as equals. That I can promise. He then continued in a much softer tone, surprising the blonde with the vulnerability in his voice. Naruto, you are the only person in this village who understands me, and you are the only person in this village that is the closest thing to a friend. You may think what you want for me is for the best, but it's not. Itachi's death will give me the closure I need. The least you can do is let me have it. Naruto didn't know what to say to that. On one hand, he could tell this to Tsunade, and ensure that security is even tighter so that Sasuke doesn't escape. On the other, Sasuke would never beg like this. It was somewhat sad and pitiful that Sasuke seemed to think that his main purpose in this world was to kill his brother. But it wasn't his place to decide what he could do. Sasuke's punishment had already been decided. But Sasuke's promise, there was something in those words that made Naruto take him seriously. Perhaps it was a good thing for Sasuke that Naruto was alone in his visit. He turned and looked directly into Sasuke's eyes, his eyes twinkling with an unknown feeling. Don't give Hokage-sama a reason to finish you off for the sole reason that the Sharingan is more trouble than it's worth. Sasuke scoffed and looked away. Oh, and Sasuke. Sasuke turned his head towards the door to see Naruto looking at him seriously, with the barest hint of a smirk. About that day where you said we will meet as equals, Sasuke narrowed his eyes, curious about what Naruto would say. I look forward to it. Naruto left after that. Sasuke snorted softly, turning his head away. Naruto's position as Jonin may not allow him to help him, but he was pretty sure that he just received Naruto's blessings to escape from this village. Naruto knew just as well as he did that Sasuke would only become Naruto's equal if he would be able to train that hard, and it damn sure wasn't going to be in this village. I hope you're ready that day, Naruto. XXXXXXX. Orochimaru sat on his chair, thinking deeply. Kabuto's report had upset him greatly. He had never foreseen this event, so now he had to decide upon an alternate initiative. He had to have Sasuke's body, and no doubt, Sasuke would be under heavy guard, now that he was back in the village. Worse, he had no way to know of any happenings inside the village, since Kabuto was his only spy in there. It was starting to look like he would have to play the waiting game, and he did not like to wait. This required some heavy thought. XXXXXXX. It was night, and Naruto and Temari were relaxing on their bed. Naruto was gazing forwards with such intensity that it worried Temari a bit. His left hand was resting around her shoulder, his finger gently rubbing small circles on her side. Temari was resting on his chest, but most of her attention was on her husband. Finally, she huffed and sat up, straddling Naruto and breaking him from his trance. "Alright, you've been acting a bit out of it ever since you came home from the hospital, and it's been driving me crazy." "What is it?" Naruto gazed at his wife with adoration as his hands went up to stroke her sides under her t-shirt. "It's actually not that big of a thing. Me and Sasuke talked, that's all." Temari poked him in the chest and dryly pointed out, "If it wasn't that big, you won't be slipping into trances every now and then. Now spill, what has got you so worked up?" Naruto smirked and sat up, leaning forward and wrapping his arms around her form, planting kisses on her neck. "My sweet wife is so caring towards me. Just what did I do to deserve you?" Temari moaned as she tried to resist. "Don't try to change the topic, NGH." To her partial disappointment and approval, he stopped and sighed. "It's just, Sasuke made a promise to me today." "Oh?" Naruto nodded. "Yeah. He said that he will escape, and when we meet 3 years later, we will meet as equals." Temari's eyes widened. "He told you that he would escape? Have you told Tsunade?" Naruto gently grabbed her shoulders and shook his head. "Temari, you don't get what I'm saying. He said that he will escape, though I have confidence in our ANBU." Temari frowned at him. "Then what do you mean?" "We both know, that is, me and Sasuke, that this village will never give Sasuke the power he needs to kill his brothers. For him to say that we will be equals after 3 years, that means that he will have to go back to Orochimaru to gain that sort of power. But even that's not the issue." Temari took a deep breath. It was rare for her to see Naruto so troubled, but she was beginning to get the gist of his and Sasuke's relationship. From what Naruto had told her, Sasuke considered him the closest thing he had to a friend. Naruto felt the same, but he didn't hold so much negativity. He wanted to help Sasuke, be by his side, and prevent him from going down a rabbit hole from which return is impossible. "Then what is?" Naruto gazed into her eyes that told her how much havoc his thoughts were in. "Is it wrong for me to feel that I look forward to that day? That I want him to return to Orochimaru so that he can gain power to become my equal?" Naruto sighed and held Naruto's hands. "Naruto, only you and Sasuke understand the bond that exists between you. If you look from a standpoint of a shinobi of Konoha, it certainly borders, no, is treason. But if you look at it as a, well, let's say rivals, then perhaps it benefits your friend." She stroked his cheek with her thumb. "Sasuke is driven not just by his desire to kill his brother, but to be better than you. You motivate him to get stronger so that he could look at you, eye to eye. And that is perfectly normal behavior for rivals. They push each other to get stronger. Sasuke wants you to see him not as a subordinate, but someone who is equal to you." Naruto averted his eyes from hers and thought. "Maybe you're right. Sasuke's promise is what will drive me, along with getting strong enough to protect you." Temari smiled at that. She found it endearing that Naruto wanted to be strong enough for her. "Speaking of training, are you sure that you want to undergo training from that lady?" Temari rolled her eyes. "Yes, I do. I don't see what has gotten you so worked up about that. Most people would give an arm and a leg to be trained by her. She is a legend in the land of the wind. Do you know what she can do with her fans? It's said that she can create entire dash." Naruto smiled and raised his hands in surrender. Fine, fine. Now that is decided, how about we have some fun? He kissed her, pulling her flush against him. She responded enthusiastically, wrapping her arms around his neck.